Welcome to the Next Generation Carriers podcast. And today we got a big one. The future of the Postal Service is being debated at the highest levels right now. And if you watch the recent congressional hearing with Postmaster David Steiner, you've heard a lot of big claims. We heard that the Postal Service could run out of cash within a year. We heard about rising stamp prices, cutting costs, and shifting to a more non-career workforce, and even opening up the door to workers changes in workers' comp and service standards. But here's what you didn't hear. You didn't hear that management mismanagement has cost nearly $1 billion of grievance payouts. And I want to thank Vinny Smith for this other statistic I'm going to come up with as well, that we hired last year, we hired 46,617 new hires, and over 31,000 of them quit within the first years. That's a 67% attrition, costing us roughly $52.8 million. That's not a worker problem. That's a management problem coupled with low wages. Now, right now, you've been hearing a lot. Rumors, concerns about your career, and about our fight for a living wage, and how we're supposed to win a real living wage with a full COLA while being told at the same time by Postmaster General Steiner that thousands of jobs maybe need to cut with threats of a 5-day delivery, something that ultimately rests with Congress and not a union-busting executive. And I'll be honest, this one hits home for me. Back in 2011, I was a worker organizer at FedEx Ground in Brockton, Massachusetts. At that time, David Steiner sat on the board of directors of FedEx. When the company found out about our union organizing, they didn't remain neutral. They brought in professional union busters and spent serious monies to shut us down. They created division, they held captive audience meetings, they isolated organizers, and they made our lives miserable on the job. So when I hear what he's saying right now, I know what I'm looking at. I know a union buster who doesn't care about this public institution and the 295,000 active and retired letter carriers is really saying. And it reminds me something of what Noam Chomsky once said. That's the standard technique of privatization. Defund, get people angry, hand it over to private capital. For years, people have warned about privatization. Some said it was overblown, and that also includes me. I knew it was a threat, but not much of one. But this time, feels different because now we're hearing it in the policies, because now he's talking about workers' compensation and outsourcing it, and he's also bringing up a push towards a non-career workforce, and something we've been fighting against for years. We lived through the disastrous DOS Award in 2013 that created the CCA position in a 2-tier wage scale. Now we're fighting for an all-career workforce, and Steiner is openly talking about taking us backwards. That's just not rhetoric anymore. So today, we're bringing in NALC candidate Mike Caref for a live Ask Me Anything. As always with our live shows, this isn't scripted. We'll be taking questions from the audience, and anyone can ask Mike a question, as long as you keep it under 3 minutes so we can give everyone here a chance to speak and not end up doing a 5-hour show. I'm here with a full crew tonight. I keep saying tonight, it's today, because it's 1 p.m. But I'm here with John, Greg, and Capone, and soon to be Margot. So let's get to it. I'll just kick it over to our host of the afternoon, which will be Josh Towney from Branch 55. So, Josh, I'll kick it over to you.
Hi, yeah. I'm Josh Town. I'm a rank and file letter carrier out of Woonsocket. Branch 55, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, is the home. And we do ask that you keep your microphone up, ready to go to ask, and make sure you have your video so we can see your reactions, we can see what you're saying, and we can open up those lines of communication. With that being said, I'd like to kick it over to Mike.
Okay. Good afternoon, most everyone. Good morning to some. Good morning to all I haven't spoken to yet today. I want to say thank you to the Next Generation Carriers. They got the gang all assembled. And for all of you that are here today, you'll have a chance to ask me whatever question you want. I want to go over a couple of things regarding the campaign. First of all, just so you have basic information. I'm running for president of the union. I've been a letter carrier since May 28th of 1994. I'm currently the business agent in Region 3, which is the state of Illinois. I've been running this campaign for a while. The election will be later on this year. We'll have nominations for all of your national officers on the third day of the convention this year in Los Angeles. So that'll be August the 5th, 2026. And then after that, on the fourth day, per the Constitution, We form a balloting committee, and then every member gets a ballot in the mail, and every member can vote. And that's what's so important here, is that the membership stand up and take part and take take their union into their own hands, take ownership. We need to take ownership of our own union here, and that's basically what this campaign is about. I don't like the direction that this is going in. I think most of us have problems with everything going on within the union, within the Postal Service. We're going to talk about all of those things here today, but we have the power as members of the union to chart our course and to decide for ourselves, what direction we want to go in and who we want our leaders to be. And the most important decision that we're going to make this year is who's going to be the president of the union going forward. The term is a 2026 to 2030 term. The installation of the new officers will be later on this year, around December. And then you have a 4-year term for those officers that we elect. The president of the union, as we've seen, there is an executive council, but there hasn't been, there's not a lot of checks and balances in this system right now. And we're really at the whim of the thoughts and the ideas and the action or lack of action by our president. The president sets the agenda. The president is the face of our organization, dealing with the media, dealing with Congress, dealing with the Postal Service. If we want to file a national grievance, got to go to the president. Everything internal to the union goes through the president. All the appointments of all the different positions. If there's an issue that requires interpretation or a decision within a branch, it goes to the president. And so the president has this oversized authority to affect all of our lives. And all of us are part of the process of picking who the president of the union should be. So the campaign, we're putting a lot of work into this thing. Trust me, I'm definitely not doing this alone. There's so many people helping out the campaign in so many different ways. Our main website, careforprez.org, I think has had at least 25,000 unique visitors. All of our platforms are Caref for Prez, CAREF 4, PREZ, the number 4. And that's like YouTube or TikTok or Facebook or basically any platform. You can make a donation. They say, what's the Cash App? Caref for Prez, whatever it is, it's always going to be Caref for Prez. We're keeping it real simple. I've been very, very accessible. We have a show called Mike Drop Mondays that comes out once a week. You'll see it, another show tomorrow. And that's another way for you guys to get to know me as a person and as a candidate. I want every member of the union to feel comfortable with who I am. And this is all part of it, having this town hall meeting, taking questions from every member of the union. I will stay here as long as you guys want to stay here, as long as you guys have questions, as long as you guys have things that you want to talk about. That's my purpose. And I want to make sure that if you guys do want to elect me as the next president, you are very comfortable with that decision. That doesn't mean you're going to agree with everything that I say or that I think or whatever. It just means you're going to be comfortable knowing that the type of leadership that I bring, the way that I communicate, the way that I run the campaign and will run the union is a way that you can feel comfortable with and you can feel a part of. And this is your union. We have a ton of challenges. With the financial reports of the Postal Service, not good. The service out there, not good. The desirability of the job, people don't want this job. It's a lousy job for the first 10 years of employment. And even after that, with all the harassment and things that are going on, the grievance process doesn't work at all right now, which is very frustrating for a lot of our members that want to get our issues addressed. So, hey, we have a lot of concerns. I want to hear from you guys. And like I say, I'll take any questions. Josh, I think we talked about having a 3-minute time limit. You want to go over that real quick before we start the questions?
Yeah. So remember, have your mic on, have your camera on, state your name, what branch you are, and if you're a retiree or active, even a CCA, and then ask your question. We're going to start off with Stanley Taylor.
Also, just to let you know, I'm gonna have a timer, so therefore you know how much time. So I want to make sure we give everyone 3 minutes. So it's not just to keep it flowing. So just check my thing, and there'll be a timer. So all right.
All right. Do we have Stanley Taylor unmuted and ready to
Oh, hold
go?
on a second. Let me change the options for unmuting. That was my fault. Sorry about that. And all right, now. Okay, now you should be able to unmute yourself.
Okay, great. You got me?
Yep.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. Good morning. Good afternoon. Stanley Taylor, Branch 124 retiree. Thanks to Vince Umbrato, I was able to retire at 55. I was broke back in 2007. I'm still broke now, but I got good benefits. My question is, I want you to consider getting rid of the dispute resolution team. Never did like it. And also, for the retirees who retired under FERS, make their COLA comparable to the COLA that I received as a civil service retiree. I have on my T-shirt right here, John Brown. Never argue with anybody that John Brown would have shot. Not taking it too far, but that's the nature of the beast. Two things. Two things I want to share with the people that are on the site. At one time, I was a facilitator with the mail handlers with the quality of work life process, and the EI process was for the letter carriers. They found that using that, because the carriers know their job better than anyone else, uh, I'm going to make a proposal at the National for Self-Directed Work Teams, get rid of the people that don't touch the mail. I'm also going to send a letter to David Steiner because he is from New Orleans. I know his history with the labor force. And I want to share the two things, or a couple of things. One, Google Thibodeau Massacre. Thibodeau Massacre, one of the largest labor events that happened in this country, a lot of people aren't aware of. And one of the things that I shared with the mail handlers was that the people who made buggy whips, when cars came along, they were out of job. So we have now this new AI technology, and I encourage everyone, even at 74 years old, I'm on a Zoom, and that's thanks to brother Ibrahim Oscar out of Marrero. I'm still involved. I love being a retired letter carrier, and I want you guys and ladies to enjoy the benefits that I have in my retirement.
Awesome, brother. So I got 50 seconds left to respond, but I mean, you said it all. Self-management, I love that. I think that getting rid of the supervisor saves the Postal Service a lot of money. It saves us our sanity, and it's really a pathway forward. We are a craft. We have duties under the M41, and we should be able to perform our duties without management harassing us. And really, if there's no street standard, what is the role of management? All of the data is now automized. The data can be collected electronically. You don't need an actual supervisor. The only purpose is to harass us. And I think we should get rid of the supervisor and save that money and let us very responsive directly to the American people as far as the level of service that we provide. You mentioned the COLA for the FERS employees. There's a bill that we are sponsoring, the NALC, that's out there. So we support that. You mentioned getting rid of the DRT. I do believe you need to scrap this thing and come up with a grievance process that works. But you got to have a willing partner with the Postal Service. And I don't know exactly what would work, but I know what we have right now doesn't work. And hell, we're not even enforcing the terms. Like there's one example is in the DRP, we're supposed to activate backup teams when there's a backlog, and we're not doing that. We're letting the Postal Service hold our grievances. We're not doing what we're supposed to do on our end. We're not filing national grievances on the issues in the DRP like we should. But even with enforcement of the terms of the dispute resolution process, I do believe that here in 2026, there's a better way of doing a dispute resolution process. And I would love to sit down with the Postal Service and come up with a better system that's efficient, that gets you an answer right away, that saves everyone a lot of money and reduces all the acrimony that is part of the grievance process and all the lawyering and all that other stuff. So, brother, man, that was great. I appreciate you. I'm sorry I went over on time already.
Okay, one other thing. Let me finish 4 words from Jimmy Johnson. How about them Cowboys?
Oh my God.
And
That
on a
was so
bad
well.
note, okay.
I gotta go back and do
Funny,
some
where's your hat
volunteer
at?
work. Yeah. Good luck, my brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
you,
you,
man.
Stanley.
All right,
Thank you,
man.
brother.
All right, Kate. Take care. Peace out.
All right. Our next member is Alan Gigax. Put the time on the
Hey,
clock,
that's
Chris.
me.
There's someone in the chat that said, "Let's go Cowboys, man."
Boo. All right. So, hey, Mike, my name's Alan Gigax. I'm out of branch 2502 Las Vegas, where Mike is going to be on Wednesday. So that's pretty cool. We are looking forward to that. And I'm also the host of the Classes of Mail podcast, where Mike has been a guest a few times. So, one of the main problems we have with Renfro is that he's an autocrat. He behaves like a dictator, ignoring the express will of the body at the convention, negotiating alone. And you've already touched on some of these in your opening statement. So, in your campaign, it appears that you're also acting alone. There's no ticket, there's no running mate. So, why should we believe that that will change once you get elected? Why should we believe that you won't be another dictator?
I love that question, man. So I'm running for president only because you can only run for one position at a time. But when you say I'm acting alone, if you ask anyone that is a volunteer or helping out with the campaign, they make a lot of decisions. I don't make all the decisions on the campaign. I wouldn't make all the decisions as the president. I have a very collaborative leadership style. We have meetings. Now, when we have like a campaign meeting, for example, crazy thing happens. We have like an agenda. We talk about the different topics. We decide as a group what direction we want to go in. If there's a lot of discussion that's like, not just disagreement, but like good points from both sides, you say, well, this needs a little further thinking about. We're gonna break out and have maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people study that issue and try to figure that out, and then come back to the group and say, here's what we talked about, here's what we're thinking, and now we have to go forward making a decision. So it's definitely, I'm not I'm not a, what do you call them, autocrat, whatever that
Autocrat, yeah.
That's not
A
me at all.
dictator.
I work collaboratively. I mean, you can ask anyone in Region 3. We communicate, we work together, and I don't believe I make all the decisions. That's one of the reasons why I'm not comfortable with this whole slate thing. I'm not comfortable being the person that picks every single officer of the union, and all of those people are then beholden to me and what my thoughts are and what my agenda is, when this is you guys' union. And I want you guys to own the union. And I want to be responsible to you. And I want every officer of the union that you elect to be responsible to you. And so, how we do that in this campaign season, we'll see. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, brief follow up. So, can you give the listeners like a concrete example of where you might have in your campaign, like somebody on your team helped change your mind, or something where you changed your perspective because of the input of the people around you?
I'll tell you, right? I wanted to bring charges against President Renfro a long time ago. He violated the Constitution and the will of the convention body. And I believe that I wrote up charges. I passed it around to some people. And the people on the campaign thought that if charges do come against President Renfro, they should come from somebody else, not me, who's a candidate for president. And so they convinced me to put that on the shelf, and I did, because
Right
that was a wise idea.
Yep. Excellent answer, brother. And shout out to brother Michael Rivera for bringing those charges out. And
Yeah.
thanks for the answer, man. I really appreciate it.
But someone needs to bring charges for him not filing a national grievance about from not activating this backup Step B teams. We should definitely be
Absolutely
filing a
agree.
grievance charge on that.
Right on. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man. See you soon.
Yep.
Not Brian Renfro soon, but real soon.
All right.
So actually, Mike, I have a redirect on that one. Since you're at the headquarters and offices, you kind of have a deeper understanding of how it all works. And as you said, you're going to have a team when you're there and everything else. Kind of explain the in-depthness of the being in charge of who runs the building, the real estate, the lawyers, and all that stuff. Is that stuff you've already looked into and have an idea of where you want to go, or how you're going to do it comparative to being there now and seeing how it's all done?
Yeah, I have some ideas. I don't currently work in DC, so I probably don't have even the best ideas on something like that. You know, the building, like for example, there's people that think we have a lot of empty space in our headquarters building in DC. And the reason why there's so much empty space is because you can't really rent it out because there's no parking, and therefore it's hard to rent out or lease out that space. And so there's some people that say we built that building so we could be next to Capitol Hill because we worked for the United States Post Office. And if we wanted a raise, we had to go, walk over to Capitol Hill and try to get someone to give us a raise. That may not necessarily be true anymore. And there's people that think that maybe we shouldn't be at that headquarters building, or we should, we could sell it for a ton of money or whatever. You talk about who our lawyers are. I don't really deal with those lawyers directly on a day-to-day basis. So I think the best answer to your question is I want to get with the people that know, and I want the executive council to do what it's supposed to do, which is make the major decisions on behalf of our union. I don't want to be a president who makes all the decisions. That's too much stress for me. And I think that's just not the best decision-making process for our union. There's a lot of things that other people have more knowledge than I do, and they can definitely have the most input. As the president, of course, the final decision comes to me, but I'm going to get the input of everybody. And the executive council is supposed to lead the union in between conventions. When the delegates at the convention speak, that's the law of the land, but that's only every 2 years. In between time, the executive council really has to take on that leadership and ownership role of the union. And that's, like I say, I'm not comfortable picking every person sitting at the table and then saying, okay, now we're going to lead the union. I mean, that's too much. That's too much. I'm confident in the people that the members pick, and I'm confident that I can work with them, and I'm confident that we can make good decisions. My role is to be transparent, to communicate, to allow for a robust discussion about all the different topics. How I'm going to organize the executive council is going to be a lot differently. We're going to have agendas. We're going to have regular meetings. We're going to have subcommittees. We're going to have reports. We're going to be dealing with all of the different issues, the finances, the grievances, there's all real estate. There's all these different topics, and everyone's going to be part of these little subcommittees that are going to be meeting regularly to discuss those issues and to lead the union so that we can be as strong as we possibly can.
Just to follow up to your follow-up, are you comfortable living in Washington, or is that something you believe that the executive board doesn't have to do? Do you think it can be done more like on stuff like this, Zoom, or the amount of traveling that you do? You think the executive board has to live out of DC majority of the time as a resident?
I think the 10 officers should reside in DC, meaning, well, I don't care where you live at, but you should be at the office regularly because you want to be there so you can collaborate. You want to be there where the business of the union is being conducted. And yeah, I don't think that's a good idea to not live in DC if you're going to be one of the 10 resident officers, but especially the president and the executive vice president need to be in DC for sure.
Alrighty, next up is Colin Walker. Please have your camera ready and your mic on, and remember your name and branch number.
Hey, Mike. Colin Walker, branch 27, Memphis, Tennessee. I don't know how deep into the socials mess you get, but there is a lot of confusion with people that are angry about the structure of the union and, come up with some pretty progressive ideas about voting for retirees and stuff like that. But they think that the Constitution is going to be changed by some kind of executive decision. Could you just run these people through really quick on the way to, one, bring an amendment to the convention, and two, get that passed, and how that in no way, shape, or form is an executive function? Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Assuming that the executive, meaning the president, follows the will of the convention, or the delegate. So there's a convention this year. Every 2 years, there's a biennial convention of the NALC. That is the supreme body of the union. If you want to amend the Constitution, there's a couple of different ways, but the main way that you would do it is that your branch would submit an amendment to the Constitution. That amendment has to be submitted 2 months prior to the start of the convention. So this year, any amendments that we want to do or anyone suggestions they have to be in by June the 3rd. I will tell you guys now, when you get your April postal record, which hopefully will come a lot sooner than the March postal record came within the month. When you get your April postal record, you'll see an announcement for another meeting kind of like this, where everyone's going to be able to submit their different resolutions and amendments, and we're going to put them up on the screen and we're going to discuss them so that everyone, a member of the union in your branch, every branch sends delegates to the convention. And some of these significant resolutions and amendments, I would think you would want to discuss those in your branch prior to your delegates that represent you going to the national convention. And so we either voted up or we voted down at the national convention as far as any amendment or change to the Constitution. Did I miss anything?
Nope, I'm good with that. Thanks, Mike.
All right, brother. Thank you, man.
Alrighty, then moving on to Aaron Jones. Camera, name, branch number.
Jones, branch 404 out of Waco, Texas, also representing the carriers for a better union out of Texas. How y'all doing today? Brother Mike, I have a quick question in regards to seeing if you'd be willing to consider something. With all this branch drama going on with Mike Rivera, he might not be able to attend the convention while he's waiting for his appeal. Would you be willing to invite him as your guest to the convention? That way he'd be able to attend.
Absolutely, man. He doesn't need me to invite him as a guest. Anyone can have him as a guest. So Brother Rivera's going to be at the convention. We'll see what happens internal to that branch 70, but he's going to be at the convention. But anyone, like when the convention was here in Chicago in 2022, I was telling every carrier, like, just get a day off, come and check it out. And anyone could be a guest to the convention. You just have someone who is a delegate to take you to the registration and say, hey, here's this person. They're a member of the union. They're my guest or whatever. So absolutely, I would do that for Brother Rivera or, probably anyone,
All right. Our next speaker is Andrew Harrison. Remember, camera, name, branch number.
Branch 3, Buffalo, Western New York.
Oh, you already know, Mike.
How you doing, brother?
Oh, another wonderful day. But first off, it's go Bills, not go Cowboys. But we'll let that slide.
I can live with that a little bit better. I can live with that.
All right. So my question to you is: everyone talks about this backlog at Step B. Everyone's forgetting that there's another step after Step B. I mean, right now, when you can look at the regions about how many arbitrations that we go through and pre-arb and all that other stuff, I know our region is much further ahead than a lot of other places, but even still, we're within like at least a year backlog from when there's agreements filed to either getting pre-arbed or thankfully scheduled for arbitration. What's the plan going forward? Hey, even if we got Step B fixed tomorrow, to get all these cases seen from an arbitrator.
Yeah, no, that's a great point and a great question. And I just want to say that the time clock is wrong. Reset the time clock. We need 3 minutes on the clock. My brother didn't get his full time. There you go. Now we got more than 3 minutes, so we'll take our time now. So in Region 3, we have about 1,200 grievances at the regional office, like you said, backed up. The problem has been, man, and I don't know in your region if it's the same, but it's pretty much standard across the country, is that nobody wants to sign their name to a settlement until we get it scheduled for arbitration. But we're resolving like 90% of the grievances that get impassed at Step B, which shouldn't happen because Step B is supposed to be like, if you impasse it at Step B, you schedule it for arbitration like you have a legitimate dispute or you're not able to resolve the grievance. What we're seeing is that somebody just doesn't want to sign their name. The Step B teams need oversight. In the dispute resolution process memorandum, there's all this language about having oversight. Now, I will tell you that in 2022, I was on a committee that the Vice President James Henry formed, and the committee was to try to rewrite the dispute resolution process memorandum to make it more effective, to make it work better and be efficient, and to allow the parties to address issues. So right now, the problem that we have is when we have an ineffective Step B person, and it's usually on management side, they just won't resolve shit that's obvious that, that what the answer is, or they don't even come to work, or whatever. You have this great inefficiency that leads to grievances either being impassed or grievances being at step B for longer than they should be. And there's nothing we can do about it, or there's nothing we've been able to do about it because the dispute resolution process is just so ineffective. I think the answer is we had a memorandum 1939. I don't know if you ever looked at the language in that thing, but it was pretty effective in that it forced management to go to arbitration on a grievance. And it said that if once you appealed a grievance to arbitration, if it sat there, it had to be scheduled within 4 months of when it was appealed. It was a memorandum that Lou Drass wrote back in March of 2021, and it expired. President Renfro let it expire with the new agreement, and so it's no longer a part of our contract. But you got to have a backstop at some point, and we can't let the post office hold our damn grievances unilaterally either, because if we're letting them hold the grievances, or if we're letting them just delay the grievances on end and on end, you're never going to get a resolve to your issue. And at least if you have the backstop of arbitration after 4 months of appeal, because every step in the process has a time limit. We can move the grievance, we can move the grievance, we can move the grievance until we get to arbitration. I can't unilaterally schedule it in front of a regional arbitrator. And that's the problem. And that memorandum did solve that problem, but we let the thing expire. And so you got to have something built into the process that forces management to deal with the grievance, because if it's left up to management, they'll let the grievance sit for eternity. They did whatever they wanted to do. So, damn, I took a lot of time on that one. But that was a great.
No, that's.
You got any follow up on that?
Just one
Took
thing
all
is
the time.
just one thing is almost like something that I learned was that my mentor taught me all about arbitration. He actually told me, because he was part of the original DRP. He was one of the original teams from Buffalo. Doug Fordyce. He said that every single year they had to go to Atlantic City, and their partner had to go and sit up in front of both sides and explain every single time they made a decision for a case. Every time.
Yeah. The impasse was a rarity. It was like, why'd you impasse this? Every issue should be resolved, and that was the dispute resolution team's job. I make fun of them. I call them the DIT, the dispute impasse team. The resolution is in your damn name. That's what we're supposed to be doing. But hey, brother, I appreciate everything you're doing out there and the hard work, and you got some great wins as an advocate recently. So keep up the good work, man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, moving along to Joshua Bernard. Remember, camera, name, and branch number.
Hello, my name is Joshua. So I'm actually in the Mail Handlers Union, Local 301, so that's New England, Boston branch. So I have a couple yes-no questions and one more open-ended question. Should I ask the yes-no ones first?
You've got 2 minutes and 45 seconds, as quick as you can do it.
Yes-no questions first. So if elected national president of NALC, given the position pays more than what the average carrier makes, would you be willing to give up the difference to pour back into fighting funds for NALC and related causes? Second yes-no question, would you be willing to support a campaign to change either the Constitution or bylaws to open up the president position and other top leadership positions to instant recall elections, so that you don't get stuck with someone like Renfro for an additional couple years after they screw up? Open-ended question. Given the Mail Handlers Union and NALC are negotiating at the same time anyway, whereas they would normally take turns, I'm thinking of what the rail unions do. Like us, they're divided by craft, but they're nation-spanning unions negotiating against the same handful of bosses. What steps would you take to strengthen all the crafts bargaining positions, particularly reaching out to NPMHU leadership, APWU leadership, and the rural leadership?
All right, so the first two questions, I'm not taking no direction from someone not in our union. I'm just talking with you, but instead of answering a yes, no, it's a yes with a modification on both of those, and that is yes, depending on what the will of the members is, as expressed at the convention. Because any change to the Constitution, pay of the president, or if you want to set up a recall procedure, I mean, all that's got to be determined by the members of the union. I'm open to whatever members of the union want to do. I think the position's overpaid myself, but hey, it's not. It wouldn't change at all the amount of money that the union has. Like it's a 0.0001% of the budget as far as what you're paying the president. But still, I think that the motivation for anyone wanting to be the president should be to serve the members. And sometimes when you pay that person too much money, you build in an incentive that really shouldn't be there. So that would depend on the members of the union, as well as if you want to set up some type of change in the Constitution, instant recall or whatever. All of that can and will be voted on when we have our convention this year in Los Angeles. As far as bargaining together, maybe there's a way to do it. It would, I think, make us stronger because all the contracts would expire at the same time and we'd be together. Of course, the NALC split with other unions, a long time ago, back in the 80s. And the reason why we split is because we thought we should, make more money. But maybe there's a way of doing it within the structure. You have these different levels, like level 4, level 5, level 6, level 7. If a letter carrier job is a certain level and the other job is another level and the other job is another level, and then we bargain together as far as determining what that pay will be, but you'll get paid according to the level that you're at. Maybe it'll work, but I don't know. There's a lot of logistics and things you'd have to work out about that. And I mean, we're not going to do that in 2026. So we'll see how it turns out. But good luck to you guys on your negotiations as well.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
All right, up next is Prince West. Remember, camera on, name, branch number, and go.
Hello, everyone. How you guys are doing this afternoon? I'm out of branch 283. My name is Prince. And it's nice to actually meet Mr. Mike. And I have a couple questions. So I would just like to start off saying that I served as a union steward for 2 years consecutively until I beat it to another station. Of course, you lose that. So I also ran for a union steward again. And it was a management station, and this station was totally dictatorship. So anything that you did or tried to resolve, it was extremely hard, but I represent very well by understanding the CBA. So I would like to ask Mr. Mike Caref, out of one of my many questions, I think is my top. What makes you stand out from any other candidate, while simultaneously, what is your approach to remove any biased branch presidents and anything that they stand for with the president's administration?
So the president of the union, so currently I'm the national business agent in Region 3, and we have 42 branches. And I always have to remind members that I'm not the boss of their president. They are, the members of every branch. The structure of the NALC is that you have an NALC, and this is what we're talking about here today. We're going to have our NALC elections. Everyone is a member of the NALC, but also everyone is a member of the branch. The branch has certain rules and regulations that they have to operate by. Some branches elect their union stewards. Some branches elect their president, and then the president appoints their steward. As long as it's identified in their bylaws, and as long as they follow that, it's totally up to the members of the union how they want to do that. The president is the chief steward within that branch. The president has the authority to remove a union steward if it has to meet a certain criteria, if that steward is basically not doing their job. And so that decision of the president, if it were to happen, is subject to appeal by the members of the union. And you would appeal it to the very next meeting, and you would say, I don't think this is proper. And if there's still a disagreement, you can appeal it to the Committee of Laws. If you don't like that, you can appeal it to the convention body the next time the convention convenes every 2 years. And so that's the process of how it works. My role as the national president would definitely not to be involved in, every decision that a branch makes, but generally, and I do this as the business agent, the National Association of Letter Carriers would get involved in a branch if a branch is not effectively policing the contract, enforcing the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, because you have a national contract and the branches have to file those grievances at the informal and the formal A. And if they're not doing that, then we have to intervene as the NALC because we have to enforce the terms of the contract on behalf of that member. And the second thing, if a branch is not following the Constitution, if they don't have approval for their expenditures, if they're not having elections, if they're not letting the members know when the meetings are and things like that, then the NALC has to intervene in that situation. But you guys, the members of the union, are the boss of the president and every other elected officer.
Okay, so I don't know if you answered it or not. What makes you different from any other candidate?
I think what makes me different, I love that question too. Look, I have a plan. If you go to the website, the platform is like 14 pages long. I have a plan that incorporates every aspect of the union that deals with our challenges and how we can address them. I think my leadership style, one of collaboration, one of involving everyone, is going to be good for our union. And I think I have a record of success. I know I have a record of success in Region 3 and some of the things we've been able to accomplish and the structure that we set up. And I think those three things set me apart from anyone else who's a candidate now or a potential candidate for president.
So do you support CLC?
As an organization, those are people that want to run for office. I don't think the CLC is something, they don't have a platform and an agenda. Those are people that have come together under one umbrella to run for national office. I think some of those candidates are going to end up being great candidates. And some of those candidates I think we're going to reject. But it's going to be up to the members to decide on a case by case basis for every position who they want to vote for.
All right, we're also 30 seconds over on time. So if anyone has a follow-up question, we can go back on stack. But thank you for that question.
All right, I'm going to pass it over to President Greg real quick. He has a question.
Yeah, local president, not president of the whole union yet. Mike, you talked about your plan and how you would approach things. We recently got a contract update, and it's you gotta go through all these steps to get it. You gotta sign in. You gotta remember. You got a members only portal. Not sure why we have to go through those steps. Some of these updates we saw just on bereavement pay and paternity leave and extra breaks. I mean, some of the stuff is just common sense. So I don't know why that has to be negotiated. Why not, if you were president right now and we were going through negotiations, would you put this out in the open? Two questions: how would you go about doing it? Would you do what you're doing now on your Facebook feed with the Walking with Mike thing you do? And would you post it everywhere so the public could see that the post office doesn't have paid paternity leave, that we do not get extra breaks after overtime, and that we need an improved layoff protection? How would you go about during contract negotiations, updating the membership, but not only the membership, the public, on what is going on in the contract negotiations?
Yeah, exactly. And we shouldn't be hiding what our demands are, because how do you accomplish what you're trying to get? And if, I keep saying that we went from collective begging to collective bargaining in 1970 as a result of the strike. And it's like we're back to collective begging, because if you look at the process, we pass proposals to the Postal Service, and when they say no, or if they say no, and most of the things that we propose to them, they say no, there's no plan to actually accomplish those things. And we say, oh, well, we tried, we passed it across the table. That's not a strategy to get a contract. And so one of the things that gives you leverage is you get the public on your side, right? And I think the public still, and hopefully it continues, they love their letter carrier. And the fact that we have so much turnover is not in their interest. The fact that there's basic rights that we don't have. I mean, the audacity of the Postal Service to have our sister letter carriers, have a baby, and then they got to get back right back to work, either because they don't have any leave or because they don't have enough money to stay off. And then, you got to pump the breast milk, and it's just a mess. And it's a dirty damn job, and there's no real place to do it, and there's no time to do it. And it's just very uncivilized. And so how do we accomplish that? I don't think you're going to appeal to the benevolence of the United States Postal Service. That has not worked. So what is the plan to do that? I think we need to pass out a flyer in front of every post office in America and say, hey, we're your letter carriers. We're here to serve you. You get this service for free, but you guys got to take care of us too. And the company that you have empowered, the United States Postal Service, to take care of us, the employees who do the job, who deliver your mail and your products and services, they're not doing their job because they're not taking care of us. And that's why we're in these contract thing right now. And I think that then you have to figure out, how do you win that at arbitration if the Postal Service is not going to respond to that leverage that you're providing or that outside pressure, which they probably won't. And if they don't, then you go to arbitration. You say, well, how am I going to win this at arbitration? And as far as President Renfro has been in there, and even before then, all the negotiations I've been involved in, we only will take a narrow set of issues in front of the interest arbitration panel. And I think that's a mistake. I think when you limit yourself to the narrow set of issues, you're allowing the Postal Service to maintain the status quo. For example, the uniform program doesn't work. Are you going to, or are you not going to take that issue in front of an interest arbitration panel to get resolution one way or another on that issue? The grievance process, are you going to take that in front of an interest arbitration panel to get resolution if you don't have cooperation from the Postal Service? So it's a great question, and I wouldn't say I have all the answers on that.
You out.
Yeah. Well, this is our time, man. We're outside of like a question from the audience anyway.
All right.
So
You go as long as you need. All right.
You got a follow up on that, Capone?
Yeah. So, Mike, about that this week.
Yeah, let's get a follow up. Let's keep going on this. This is important. This is important, man.
We're in the middle of negotiations right now. So can you explain to people how this week has gone? Because you guys are broken off into teams. I know, was it Tuesday you guys met to present proposals, and then Wednesday, Thursday discuss? Is that right? Is everybody there in regards?
No. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't been involved in any thing related to collective bargaining outside of the committees. The committees that presented proposals. So the committee I was on presented proposals. All the different committees presented proposals, and then we have no idea where it goes. The first time I heard any update about even what we were proposing was when I read the thing that came on the members only portal. That was the first time. So no, we're not involved in it.
So the teams are not involved. There's no. So who, as far as you know right now, who's the only ones that are negotiating or involved in that process?
The president and the executive vice president, and that's per the Constitution. Except for they can also utilize any people that they see fit, and I guess they don't see us. They don't see us as fit.
So Brian and James Henry.
Paul.
No, Paul Barner, executive vice president.
All right.
So you guys haven't been down, so you haven't been to DC, and you haven't sat in that executive boardroom, and Brian hasn't said, "All right, guys, here's the update. Here's where I'm at." None of that has happened.
We had executive council this meeting on Thursday. We met for approximately 4.5 hours. We did not receive an update, no.
No talk about the contract in that meeting, where some people are depending on the next contract, probably whether they're going to stay here or not stay here. They just saw their postmaster general sit in front of Congress and cry poor mouth, and we had no update to the executive council to take back to their members that what is going on with your next contract. We're going to wait until November again for a contract, most likely at this point, because there's no movement. Post office is playing the long game. They're just crying poor mouth, and we're going to end up with the same old shit again, basically, because nothing has changed.
It's almost for sure, Greg, that we're going to get to May 22nd, and we're not going to have a contract, because it requires. And I say this, even let's just take the uniform allowance. There's a lot of different ways to resolve the uniform program problem, different suggestions and proposals. All of them are going to cost the post office more money. And I don't see the post office putting money into uniforms. I don't see them putting money into starting pay. I don't see them taking ownership of the fact that there's too many supervisors, that their grievance process doesn't work. I don't see them taking ownership of none of the bullshit on their end. And I don't see them putting any more money on the table to resolve some of the other issues that would require that. And so you have to have a plan to beat them at arbitration. And no, none of that was discussed with the executive council because the president doesn't work collaboratively. He works with himself and the people that he appoints under him. That's his style of leadership. That's his approach. And he's only giving you guys a limited bullshit update that he gives you because there was a resolution that passed at the convention in 2024 that said to post updates on the members only portal, and that's why he does it. But other than that, it's not transparency. It's not here's what we said, here's what they said, here's where we're at. You know, it's just limited information, just enough to say we gave you an update.
I mean, they don't want to discuss the uniforms because the Postmaster General wants 70% of us to be part-time employees. So why would they discuss the uniforms if that's what they want? Which is they don't care if anybody's in uniform. They want to treat it like a paper route if it was up to them. So
they want to treat us all like Amazon employees, and we have a body on the route, and we'll deliver it if we can, if we have the funding. That's how they want to do it.
Alrighty, before we continue, I just want to leave a little message out there for the people on Facebook. There is a Zoom chat link inside the chat on Facebook. So make sure if you have a question, you jump inside the Zoom chat so you can participate. Moving on, we are looking at Stephen Mahoney. Please have your camera ready and your name and branch number.
Well, that didn't work.
There you go, Steve. You're good.
Am I good? All right, I'm unmuted.
brother.
Steve Mahoney, Branch 41. You had mentioned a little bit, Mike, about since you're running as an independent and not on a slate. As we all know, I think we all want to change in the leadership on our national president, and I would dare say some of his subordinates, other elected members. And we saw that reflected in certain votes that they did take, where some people on that executive council voted, in essence, to keep our current president in his role. And that's one of the things as far as a concern of mine is splitting the vote, because I would hate like hell to see 3 or 4 people running and our current president stay in there because he got 32% of the vote. That was a big fear of mine. But it is what it is. The die is cast. One question that I have for you is, were you ever offered to be part of the CLC in perhaps executive vice president or any other type of position? And if you were, what were your reasons for declining it? Because every leader needs to have a good team behind them. And collectively, I personally think a united front, has to take on the people that are already in place, because they also have their people that are on their slate. And, hopefully we get a good turnout like the Vote No campaign. Just a quick aside, when it comes to uniforms, an easy fix in my mindset is black leather sneakers. Let's go for that. Because those $250 sneakers, I'm going to go in a Foot Locker and get a pair for like $80. And that's just something, a quick fix, because we know the uniforms, it's Galt or Gauls. They got a monopoly on that thing down there. And, that's a tough situation. But that was the 2 things. A third thing, locality pay. It gets shot down every time.
You ain't leaving me no time here, brother. Go ahead. You want me to address the locality pay?
Well, the first thing with the CLC, as far as
no problem. I got it. I got 3 things: the split vote, the CLC, and the locality pay.
Thanks a lot.
I'm with you on the sneakers. We should separate out the shoes from the uniform program. So the locality pay, I whatever the convention delegates want to do. Normally we have voted against it. Of course, that could change this year. And then as president of the union, you negotiate based on what the will of the members is. Ironically, right now we have this stupid program where there's career offices and then there's non-career offices, which is a differentiation. And basically it's supposed to be based on if you can't hire. So the cost of living in that area. But I think that if we're not going to support locality pay, if we're going to say a letter carrier is a letter carrier, then we're going to have to make sure that letter carrier pay is high enough for all of us to live on. And that means our brothers and sisters in San Francisco and Boston, New York City, and wherever the cost of living might be higher. The pay needs to reflect that, and we all need to make enough money for that. Or we need to say as a union that we're going to go to locality pay. So either way, I'm good, but that would be the approach I would take. As far as splitting the vote, I absolutely agree with you. It's a concern of mine as well. The president has been a very bad president, in my opinion, on all the different standards that you would measure a president by. And I think majority of the members feel the same way. And the majority of the members should be able to get a new president if the majority feels that he's not the president for us. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be the outcome of the election. But as you say, any candidate, anyone can run. And if you have multiple candidates, then you can say, damn, the president only has, you said 32%, they could have 30, 40, whatever percent of the members, but it's not 50. And the rest of the people don't want them. But because the rest of the votes are split amongst multiple candidates, then President Renfro is our president for another 4-year term. And that is absolutely the worst outcome that could come of this thing. I went to Brother James Henry, who, as you're probably aware, is vice president of the union. He's running for president of the union. And I've asked him, I said, you and I should come up with a system. We can do it maybe at the convention prior to nominations. Maybe we send something out to the branches and ask them to weigh in, like a straw poll type thing, but some type of way to figure out what the members want. Do they want you to be the nominee for president, or do they want me to be the nominee for president? And whatever they pick, let's just go with that, so we make sure we don't split the vote. And Brother James Henry is not in favor of that. He won't do it. The other thing that I propose to him is get behind the ranked choice voting system, which hopefully we'll be able to change the Constitution and implement that, because the ranked choice voting system would not, it would make sure that you're not splitting the vote. So that's my thoughts on that thing. And, he's the one that's telling us no on that. And to me, that's shitty. If you're running for president, you look out for the interests of the members of the union. And if there's a real concern on all sides that we're going to split the vote, then you take those actions and you figure those things out so that we don't split the vote. And to me, the fact that he's not willing to do any of that and to work with me on any of those things either says that he thinks he should be able to pick who's the president and doesn't believe in the democratic process, or his desire to be the president supersedes the interests of the members of the union. And so you guys got to judge that for yourselves. At this point, I can just run my campaign, because what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to let a small group of people decide who is the president of the union. The president of the union should have the vast support of all of the members out there. And so that's what I'm running my campaign on. As far as the CLC, I don't like their structure. I was part of it in the beginning. I built a lot of it. Your president, John Cruz, I invited him to the first meeting, because I thought he was a guy who should be part of that discussion and that leadership process. But it turned out that they decided to organize that group in another direction. I don't like the direction. And the first thing that I didn't like was, what is our process for deciding who should be the candidate for president? Because to me, that's by far the most important decision. You have 27 other people on the board, but the president, like I said in the beginning, man, the president is the one that really makes all the decisions and sets the agenda for the NALC. And so what is our process for figuring it out? What they wanted to do was have a small group of people to decide who should be the candidate for president. And I told them then, I think that's a terrible idea. And so anyway, ended up just splitting from them, and we have what we have here today. So sorry for the long answer, brother.
No, and I want to thank you for shedding some light on that, because that was a question in the back of my head for a while. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome, brother.
All right, moving along. Remember, it's 3 minutes to ask and 3 minutes for Mike to respond.
Wait, 6 minutes? Is it 6 minutes total?
No, it's
total.
3 minutes in total.
Mike, are you kidding me?
Ask
We gave you
and
45
respond.
minutes for the last one. I mean, it's your show, man. I don't want to cut you off, but I don't know. Do you want 3 minutes?
I think you guys should lay down the law and just cut off my microphone.
All right,
that's what Renfro would do. Renfro would do that.
You're yelling it. All right, I'm gonna. All right.
All right, Chris, you're on cutting Mike.
I'm gonna cut off Mike. I'm bringing the hook and the music. I'm gonna play you out, buddy. All right.
Alrighty, moving on. We're looking at Ibrahim Oscar. Remember, video, name, and branch number.
Hey everybody, my name's Ibrahim Asghar. I'm branch 4323. Hey, brother Mike, if you're elected president of the NALC, how are you going to fix the division created by these different slates and different podcasters, and actually bring this union back together while improving working conditions for everyone in it?
Yeah, unity, man, is easy to me. I like that question. Unity comes from a shared mission, and it comes from success, in my opinion. Those two things. The shared mission we have already, and I firmly believe all of the people that are running for different positions, and all of the people that you see having these different arguments and discussions on different platforms, social media, whatever. These are people that care about the union, and these are people that are in this business of being a union rep for the right reason, meaning that we want what's best for our union, for our craft, for our brothers and sisters. And so I think bringing people together is not going to be as hard as people think. I think you got to set up that structure where everyone has a voice, where you have a collaborative approach and everyone is able to feel part of that. Kind of like what we're doing here today, you know? So I think that I will be able to accomplish that. But I think that success brings everyone into the big tent. They say, oh, this union is really accomplishing something. And so I think we have to focus on getting some wins for our members to make them really feel part of this union.
So I do got to follow up. I'm just reclaiming.
Hey,
my
we got
time.
plenty of time, brother.
We minute and 51 seconds. So, Mike, if you were elected as NALC president, would you be open to allowing the Postal Record to publish short bios and photos of all candidates running in the election, so members can better get to know everyone? This would be probably between the Postal Record, between the convention, and when the ballots go out. And that's my final question.
Yeah, I would support that. That's something that somebody can propose to the convention this year in Los Angeles. I think that's a great idea, and I think that's something we should someone get a proposal together, take it to your next branch meeting, and get it to Nicole Ryan, the Secretary Treasurer, prior to June the 3rd, and hopefully we get that passed at the convention this year. That's a great idea, brother.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Alrighty, moving on to Austin Webb. Camera, name, and branch number.
Is that working? Cool.
You're on.
All right, dope. First, Austin Webb, branch 763 from Columbia, Missouri. Also, I am a podcast host for 763 from the 573. So I want to start out by, I have something prepared because I tend to lose track of some things. So I first want to start out by thanking Mike and the NextGen carriers for setting up this meeting on Palm Sunday. So, but I want to lead into just answer my question, and then if we have time, I'll ask some follow-up. So my question for Mike is, you talked earlier about having transparency and leading with transparency. I want to ask you about something that I believe is married to that, and that's going to be accountability. So my question to you right off the bat is, do you have people around you that are holding you accountable? And in that accountability group, do these people hold enough relational equity with you that should you as president, quote, go rogue and no longer act in the membership's best interest, that they could come to you, correct you, and would come and you would come out, you would come out to the members with an apology and be open to allowing the members to dictate the terms of rebuilding that trust, even if that means your resignation as NALC president. Lastly, would you be willing to commit to introducing us to some of your accountability group via one of your podcasts? If you have already named them, where can I find that information?
All right, I'm muted, man. The kids are using the blender over here. It's going to be a nice pozole later on today, but for now, it was a little background noise. All right, so I have a campaign group that I work with. I think they hold me accountable. As my job as the MBA, the people that hold me accountable are the people in the office and the other branch presidents and the other leaders around the region. I don't know how to describe that process, but I need to think about that a little bit as far as like giving you a good description, or maybe when I'm constantly working on the platform, and I think structure of the union is a very important piece of that, and that's something I want to elaborate a little bit further on. So maybe I'll get into that a little bit more. I'll take a note of that as far as updating the platform and getting into that a little bit more. I agree with you that transparency and accountability go hand in hand. If there's just transparency and no accountability, the transparency doesn't serve much of a purpose. The whole purpose of the transparency is to involve other people. And so one of my mantras in the regional office is I want everyone in the office to know what I know, and I want to know what they know. So we share information, and that helps because the next question is, am I doing this right? How are we handling this particular issue with this grievance or with this branch or whatever? Are we doing it right? So I think that's the right concept, to have that transparency as well as that accountability. The relational equity that someone has in relation to me, I don't know. I think that for now it's just a campaign thing. The people that I work with on the campaign, and I think if I'm elected president, the people that would have to have that equity would be the other officers of the union. And once again, I keep kind of beating this horse, but if I'm picking the other officers for you guys, how much relational equity are they going to have? How much ability are they going to have to hold me accountable? So I feel confident that as long as you guys are electing those people that sit on the executive council, those other officers of the union, as long as you guys are electing them, that they're accountable to you, and that you guys collectively, the members of the union and those specific officers, as part of their duties, would hold me accountable. And the other thing you brought up is resignation of office. If I feel like I'm not what the members want or what the members need, I would absolutely resign my position. I thought that President Renfro should have done that, or at least considered that in 2023 when he was having all those issues and he had to step away during contract negotiations, which we understand he had a medical issue. But if you have a medical issue, you're not able to serve the members. You have to at least consider that maybe you're not the right person at this time.
Mike, we really thank you for that answer. We
Yeah.
are moving on. Well,
Right on time, brother. Right on time.
Like right up, like 2 seconds, but it's getting good. All right.
Getting better.
All right. So the next person we have on stack is Caesar Newman.
Well, actually, that's Medina, but that's fine. I'll take Newman for now.
Newman from Seinfeld.
I had a question for you, Mike. A couple of questions about. Let's see. Now I have forgotten what I wrote. What would you do to undo the damage that Renfro did while he was in power as the president? And the other question is, do you think he is working for management from all the decisions he's been making? Because I certainly do.
I do not. I think that he has a personality like we all have, and he's a bit on the stubborn side, or maybe just I don't know. I think he thinks he's doing what's in the best interest of the members of the union. I just don't think it is. If that makes sense. Look. I'm glad you brought this up. This is not going to be a quick fix, a quick turnaround. Contractually, we are in a deep, deep hole. The Postal Service itself, like our relationship to the Postal Service, the service to the American people, like we keep saying how we're still well liked or whatever in the community. Well, we keep up this shitty service, and that might go the other direction. And so there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to all have to work on together to kind of right this ship and make it right. And it ain't going to happen overnight. It ain't going to happen even in a year or two. It's going to take a while. But I will come in from day one and say, and I did this when I got elected as a business agent. I don't give a shit who you voted for. It means nothing. We're all in this union together. Everyone that has a skill set is going to get some type of role and responsibility. We're going to work together collaboratively as a union to address all of our challenges and all of our issues. Everyone is welcome. We want all of your ideas. We want all of your input, your passion, and all of that. And I think that we can change on day one. But the holes that we're in, those are going to take a while to dig out of, in my opinion. Thanks, Caesar.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks, Mr. Newman.
Alrighty,
Jerry.
we're gonna be moving on to Crystal Chakowski. Please put your camera on, name and branch number.
Sorry, didn't expect you to jump so much. Uh, Crystal Chakowski, I'm branch 4016. So if you become our next president, you know I'm a big letter carrier political fund person. I really believe in the cause. What are you going to do as far as pushing the legislation, making more contacts with our congressmen? And also, I'm curious how you feel about getting more transparency as far as what kind of meetings and discussions are happening as far as trying to push that legislation, because that is so hard to find.
Yeah, it's that's a good point, Crystal. And by the way, Crystal is host of a podcast called Beyond the Satchel. If you guys want to check that out, her and brother Ken Pratt, they do a podcast. So on the legislative front, that's a great thing you bring up about like what is the progress of our legislation. I think that our structure for legislation is still very much DC centered. Meaning that we're waiting on the majority leader or the minority leader to do something and to activate the members of Congress, when we should be the ones activating the members of Congress based on the fact that there's at least 500 letter carriers in every congressional district, sometimes even more than that in America. And we should have some pull and some influence with every single congressman, Republican, Democrat, or independent. And we should be able to push our agenda that way by saying the support of the members of Congress and their constituents is for this particular piece of legislation, and push it that way by making sure that we have a strong network and that we're getting a yes from all of our congressional representatives. And then you bring up the Letter Care Political Fund, and I've been in the Letter Care Political Fund forever, and I've signed up hundreds and hundreds of people of our members into the Letter Care Political Fund. I'm passionate about it as well. But I think that the dollars for the Letter Care Political Fund have to be used directly in races where if we have someone who's not standing up with letter carriers, and our members that live in that district, in conjunction with the liaison that we have to that congressional district, in conjunction with the state association that runs our legislative program, we need to get involved and spend our money there and getting someone elected who will actually represent our interests where we have those situations. So I would definitely like to see us organize our legislative and our political program a little bit differently.
Okay. And as far as the transparency goes, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I think that the transparency is built into that when you have that type of system, because we should be reporting back to the members on. So if I go talk to the congressman and we're promoting a certain piece of legislation, I want to know what the response from that congressperson was. Was it yay, nay, and what, so there needs to be communication back to the members, and particularly like the Letter Care Political Fund. Maybe when you sign up, you should get like an email address or something so that, we as a union can communicate back to you. You're contributing, you're giving your hard-earned money. You should know what's going on with the legislation that we're trying to promote. And specifically, your representative, what are they saying about the things that we're presenting?
All right, cool. All right, thanks, Mike.
I like that. Thanks, Crystal.
Real quick, would you take a lead on mobilizing the letter carriers into like going to different places to rally in front of, to get maybe a state leader, who's not backing our legislation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we got to mobilize our members, and I think we can't be shy about it. And I think the letter carrier name still carries a big amount of oversized amount of influence. And every legislator, every congressional person in America should be fearful of pissing off the letter carriers. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to mess with us. And I think we need to make our voices heard publicly, for sure.
Alrighty, next up is John Sins. Make sure you have your camera on, name and branch number.
Hi, my name is John Sins from Branch 650. I'm going over the LM2 reports from the Department of Labor from National. In 2022, Frederick Rolando allegedly retired, but I keep seeing his name on our LM2 reports. The latest one, he's listed as a senior network admin making over $100,000 a year. Does NALC have a policy against double dipping?
No, I don't think so, because you have a lot of retired letter carriers or retired union officers that are working for the union in some type of part-time capacity. So we know that Fred Rolando was heavily involved in the contract negotiations in 2023, for example. I think, now this is another thing about the executive council. The executive council should be overseeing the finances of the union. We don't get any reports. We don't get any numbers. Yet the LM report comes out afterwards, right? But in real time, when the money is being spent, it's not being approved by the executive council, which is what's supposed to happen under the terms of the Constitution. And so, someone put this in the chat. Fred Rolando's son, Freddie, works for the NALC, and he's in the IT department. And before anyone starts talking about nepotism or whatever, that brother is awesome. Like, I don't know what we're paying him, but it ain't enough. He's very, very, very good. So you're not talking about Freddie. You're talking about Frederick V.
It's listed as Frederick V, but
yeah, okay, so that's not it. Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, right. I think that the executive council, and that's the whole thing. The president is going to make decisions, and the president is going to assign different people to do different duties. And look, you got to have a functioning union, and you got to be able to make decisions. But those things should be transparent, and that information should come at the very least to the executive council to make sure that we approve of those expenditures and the hiring and the things that are going on. And I will do that as the president. I'm not going to keep nothing from nobody. We're going to talk about it. If people disagree, they're going to tell me, and we'll make those decisions. So I think we need a lot better transparency on our finances. I also know that there was a group headed by David Grosskopf, the president in Branch 3, who went to NELC headquarters a couple of months ago, and they looked through the books, and they had some questions about some of those expenditures, and they're trying to get answers to their questions, and President Renfro stonewalling them, at least up until now. And that's not cool at all. We can have disagreements, but we should all know what we're spending our money on, for sure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
All right, next up on our list is the man with the perfect radio voice, Mr. Alan Gigax.
Yeah. All right, I'm unmuted. Okay, so this question is, you've been campaigning on the need for change at the national level, which is obviously something we agree with, change with the way the executive board runs. The problem that we have is that any changes you might make, we kind of have to take them on faith that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. But then even if that happens, any changes you make can immediately be put back by the next person in charge. So to really protect us from another Renfro type autocrat or dictator coming in, there have to be constitutional changes. So I'm wondering, have you put forth any constitutional amendments that will prevent these kind of problems in the future? Or are there any that you support that help prevent another dictator, another Renfro type from coming in the future?
I have not. I'm trying to, do things in order. And so I really want to see what the suggestions are that come out of our meeting. We're going to have like this pre-convention meeting in April that's going to be available for everyone, and we're going to look at any proposals. If there's, if let's say there are no proposals to address particular issues that we have with the Constitution, the role of the president, and whatever. There's a lot of things out there, But if there's something where we think there's a hole, yeah, I would take the lead to try to present that. It's got to go through the branch. I think my branch submitted 4 resolutions, 1 constitutional amendment, and 3 other ones last time at the 2024 convention. I assume we'll be equally as active at the 2026 convention. But of course, that's up to the members of the branch, and they have to vote on those type of things. You said faith, though. I just want to say one thing about that, and I understand you're voting for someone. Yes, there's a certain amount of faith there, but you can look at the way that I run the region as the national business agent. You can ask anyone that's in Region 3 and, kind of do your homework a little bit. When I say that my style is collaborative and that I share information, I think you'll find that to be true. And you can kind of go off of that as a baseline.
So, given that you're on the inside in the executive board, seeing what happens in these meetings, are there changes that you think the activists who are watching right now, are there changes that you think we should be proposing or focusing on to help limit these abuses of power?
I think the decision making should be the executive council and not the president. And there's some things in there right now, the president just doesn't follow them, but there's probably some things that we could make better language on as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome. We stayed on time too, man. We're good.
Yeah, that was pretty quick and concise and loaded. Next person up is Colette Willing.
All right, my question is safety. What do you plan to do to help keep us all safe out on the street? I'm president of 371.
Where's branch 371 at, Colette?
Keokuk, Iowa.
Damn.
I reach out to
You
you
might have
from
to, you have to spell that one.
KEOKUK.
All right, I got you. So just general safety, or do you have anything in particular in mind?
Well, I mean, in and out of the office, I reached out to you about a sex harassment case in my hometown, and they did nothing about it.
Got you.
Basically, just move the postmaster to the days that poor girl is off.
Did it have an IMIP under the publication 522?
I have tried to help them, and they say they've reached out to you because you are their business agent at this time. But
no, I'm not the business agent in Iowa. I'm only the business agent.
No, not here, Quincy, Illinois.
Oh, Quincy, I got you.
I'm in Iowa, but the branch or the place I reached out to you about was in Quincy.
Yeah, I got you.
Which is my hometown.
We were working with them on some issues. Let me circle back with them. The postmaster there used to be a member of the union, used to be the president of the branch.
Yes,
and so there's this kind of extra element there, but I'll reach out. Look, I think there's a lot of, and I don't know if this is, kind of speaking in generality, but there's so many issues with the workplace. And I think a lot of it is caused by the fact that the supervisor is there to harass us, meaning that, we don't even have a street standard, but the supervisor is there to tell us we're not doing our job right or try to get us back in a certain time or whatever. That level of harassment is what causes a lot of the problems on the workroom floor. But I also think that there's not, you have agreement when the grievance process doesn't work. Like, for example, you file those grievances, and if DRT backlog is 8 months and your arbitration backlog is a year, unless the post office is willing to agree to a settlement, you're talking about 2 years down the road for an issue that needs to be addressed like now. And we do have the JWIP process, but it requires, there's no requirement in the JRIP that the Postal Service do A, B, and C, because what it says is that you try to work together with the Postal Service on those environments. But if they're not willing to work with you, then you just file a grievance. Like, if you don't agree with what the management is doing, you can just process a grievance, which is great if the grievance process would work. So that's some of the problems that we're running into. Get rid of the supervisor and fixing the grievance process, I think, would help in a lot of those issues. But then, you got to get in there and get to work in those places, and I'm out of time. I got that in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're actually doing really good in condensing our questions. They're really meaty too. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Margot O'Neill. Make sure you have your camera on.
Let's stay in Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, for this one, we're actually going to stay in Keokuk because I don't have. Yeah, I know, very local, very southern Iowa, southeastern Iowa. But so this is not my question, but it is the question of Nick Capaldo, who is a steward out of Colette's branch. It's very similar, quite similar to the one that was just asked by Colette. But what he says is, I am a steward of a very small branch. I have a HIP grievance from 2023 that is still awaiting arbitration date. What can I do to move it along?
Elect a new president. The only person that can, so the HIP grievances, the Postal Service in 2023, I think everyone knows. Well, let's just go over what happened. The Postal Service has a heat illness protection program, right? And in 2023, they decided that at that time, it said everyone should have training by April the 1st on the heat illness prevention program. And they falsified almost everyone's record. I know they falsified mine, probably falsified all of you guys' records. So they could check a box and say, we completed this heat illness prevention program training. And so we filed grievances all over the country on that issue of them falsifying and of them not complying with the terms of the HIP. The Postal Service did this kind of parliamentarian move back and forth, and then eventually they declared the issue to be interpretive. And if you look at the contract in Article 15, it talks about the interpretive step and what the steps are supposed to be. And the Postal Service is supposed to then identify to us specifically what is their interpretive issue. Do they believe they don't have to have a heat illness program? Do they believe we can't enforce the terms of the heat illness program? Do they believe that they can falsify training records without any type of whatever? Do they have a disagreement with the remedies we're asking for? We don't know because they never even identified the issue. And the president has the ability to push that issue to national arbitration after the Postal Service declared it as an interpretive issue. But instead, he has not taken that approach. And those grievances are sitting in some file cabinet somewhere. The ones in Region 3 are sitting in a file cabinet somewhere. Yeah. It's lousy. There's no there's no advantage to not moving the grievance, in my opinion. But you'd have to ask President Renfro why he thinks that we should sit on those grievances.
Thank you very much for answering the question.
Thank you. Happy Sunday.
All right, moving on. Our next member is Frank Garofalo. Oh my God. Frank Garofalo.
It's probably Garofalo.
Garofalo. Oh my God. I've been on point until that point.
How you say your name, brother?
Yeah. Say your name, branch number, and have your video on. Thank you.
I've been called worse. As long as you don't call me late for dinner, it's fine.
There you go.
Branch 41 here in Brooklyn, New York. My question is, I'm a retired carrier. I retired in June, 32 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I saw something that I think Mark Santano put, all the contracts. I've been through all those contracts from 93 on. And very, very heartful, all those contracts, how long it takes to get the carriers get their pay. And then when they give you your back pay, they tack it on to your regular pay and they take all the taxes out. But my main concern is, like I said, I'm retired. I see nobody actually talks about retirement. The sad part is they do the high 3. And I think with the last contract, I don't know if I'm correct, and I think, hello?
You good, man?
Oh, I don't see you. That's why.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. That the next contract, I have to go on high 5. And
well, there was a proposal, a legislative proposal, that they would change the retirement calculation from a high 3 to high 5, but it didn't pass. It did not pass, and the current law is still the high 3.
Because my concern is, I know nobody looks down the line, but once you retire, if you look at the postal record, you get an idea, you do 30 years, what the amount is. Okay, then you take your spouse, and then you add your health insurance, everything, you're coming home with peanuts. What I can't understand, a big corporation like the post office, that they can't go to a Blue Cross, GHI, and say, listen, I got 300 members. What kind of deal can I get for my members where they save and us as carriers or employees pay less into it? Because between how much we're paying and then our co-payment, it's ridiculous. Another thing is the postal police there. I got held up in 2017. They took them off the street and everything. And not too long ago here in Brooklyn, a carrier got slashed across their face, 29 stitches. Okay, so where's the protection that you read across?
Let me, because I only got 25 seconds.
Okay.
The postal police, I'm glad you brought that up, man. They are only allowed by the Postal Service to protect the real property of the post office. They're not out on the streets anymore.
I
They're not
understand
protecting us. And we need to get that into the Protect Our Letter Carriers Act. We need legislation that says you need to have postal police out there. They are a liaison to the local police. We can contact them when we have issues with customers, and they can come out and do patrols.
But I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, like, we're just a number to them. You know, they don't care about us. Between the mail being
Just
robbed,
a body to them.
The mail being robbed out of the boxes, they're robbing the keys and everything. And like I said, how many carriers have died across the United States for a key? But thank you.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Our next member is Harmon Badwall. Please state your name, branch number, and have your video ready.
Hi, my name's Harmon Badwall. I'm a full-time regular, branch 34, Boston. And my question is, what is your plan to ensure all grievances are pursued fairly and aggressively so carriers aren't underrepresented because their case is difficult, time-consuming, or less likely to boost a win-loss ratio for advocates that I've seen and heard about?
Harmon, I gotta tell you, man, I think that's a myth. I could be wrong. I don't give a shit about a win-loss record or anything like that. I mean, there is a consideration of like your risk reward. You know what I mean? Like when you have a grievance, like what are the chances I'm going to win versus what am I actually going to win out of this grievance? If I'm spending whatever to win $50, it might not be worth it. But if it's a significant grievance, so you do have to weigh things, but win-loss ain't never, at least for me, and I've never heard any of my colleagues, the fellow national business agents, discuss that's a relevant factor for them. But you want to make sure that every branch knows what they're doing in the grievance process and help them if they need help. And if they're just refusing to do it, I think you have to intervene as the NALC to make sure we enforce the terms of the collective bargaining agreement. But really, the branches have to do this. And the reason why is because we have a system where the post office pays for the grievance procedure, and we need to make them pay for it. So the answer is not to always send someone in from the outside. I could be the president of the union in DC sending in a steward to all the offices all around the country where they have issues, and I would be spending your dues money on that mission when the Postal Service should be paying for it. And so we have to make sure that we negotiate rules in Article 17 that work, rules in Article 15, the grievance process that work, and then we have to empower our local branches and stewards to do that work and hold them accountable in the sense that you guys as a member of the union should always be satisfied with the process. You should know what's going on. And if you report to the NALC, like the regional office or headquarters, that your grievance is not being handled in the way that you think it should be, then we're going to look into that and we're going to have some conversations and we're going to do some things differently if in fact the grievance is not being handled the way it should be. And that's all I can say. But the other thing is, of course, the local people have to be involved in your grievance, in your local branch, and who your steward is and who your president is, to make sure that you guys have the people representing you that you feel confident in.
All right, and then one last quick one is any concerns about, say, you become president and the other people elected working against you because they ran against, say, the other slates?
No, not really. Not really. I mean, we're a democratic organization, and everyone's going to have their say. And maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but we'll and quite frankly, man, the president has way too much power, so I'm not too concerned about it. I think that I'll be able to do the things that I think are important for the union, and I welcome the interaction from people that voted for me or didn't vote for me. It's fine.
Right.
Thanks, Harmon. Appreciate you, brother.
No
I'll be out
problem.
there soon, man. I'll be out there in
Uh,
the second week in April or something like that.
right. Maybe I'll finally catch you.
That'd be nice.
You coming to the rap session, Mike?
No, I'm going
Okay.
to Branch 34 meeting.
Ooh, exciting.
Unless you
that's
guys
gonna be
invite
an
me to the rap session, I'll come, but I don't want to just,
Uh,
it ain't my rap session.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Greg, you got something from the
Yeah,
EVP out of 12?
yeah. I got a question from Chris Boudreau, EVP or VP. I thought he was VP. I think Guido's EVP, but maybe I'm wrong. From Chris Boudreau, Branch 12. Mike, considering so many national officers have had their duties taken away from them, do you believe the amount of officers needs to be right-sized, or do these officers have plenty to do? And is Renfro just happy having many of these duties set aside for his own ego?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know if it's ego or what the hell it is, but there's plenty to do. I think that it's not that we need less people doing it. I mean, you can divvy up the work in different ways. You have officers, you have people on staff, you have people that work part-time for the union, working on different projects and things like that. You have the regional offices, you have the branches, you have all these different possibilities and capabilities of getting the job done on behalf of the members. But we only have 10 officers in DC, and I don't think there needs to be less officers. I do think we need to utilize our officers to the greatest extent possible, for sure. One of the things, and we'll see how it goes. But I do like the fact that our officers get around the country. But I also think that you have a job to do, and if you're constantly on the road, you can't do your job as good as maybe you need to do. So like every time there's an event at a branch or something, say, well, we're going to send out a national officer. I don't know if I'm going to always send out a national officer to all of the events around the country. I do want us to be out there, quote, in the field and at the different branch events, but I think that the national officers have duties, and we're going to define those duties and make sure that they're performing those duties. And the regional office, which we have 15 regions office all over the country, they're mainly the ones that should be attending the local events, in my opinion.
Yeah, do you think it's more of a like the person at the top may be the problem and the people under him? Like I never had a bad experience with any national
Yes.
officer from Nicole to
I know where
Max.
you're going.
Yeah, it's
Yes, I think
definitely
that's the
like it's
problem.
like it seems like the place is run like any training you go to, it's run so well. We've had Mac on. I've talked to Nicole at rap sessions. Any question I ever have, it's always done right away. Like I think we're having another executive board member on soon, and this person's got a good reputation. Do you think it's just like the person at the top is just like as smart as he can be sometimes is just not a good leader of people is more of the problem?
Yes.
I knew the answer to that, but
Yeah. Yeah. I concur.
Alrighty, we're going to be moving on to Ray Tillman. Please have your camera ready, name and branch number.
That's a name I haven't seen in a while. How you doing,
Mike,
man?
how you doing?
What's up, brother?
Much. Ray Tillman, Branch 642, Boulder, Colorado. I'm retired. Was an RAA for a while. Hey, Mike, I have a lot respect for you. I'm glad I tuned in today. You had a lot of good things to say. What I'm really concerned about is in this election. You talked about rank voting. But I ran for the NGL in 1994. We got our asses whooped, but we didn't have the money either. But what I'm concerned about is the fact is that it is a three-way split, and then we end up with the person that we don't want, and I'm talking about Renfro, and then we're just back to square one again. I understand your position. It's just it's very concerning. I know a lot of people are concerned about it. But you got to do what you got to do, and I just hope you're able to have the money to get mailings out, because they're going to do a mailing to everybody. And that's just really it. That's really my main concern. I know you've answered it before, but I just want to put my 2 cents in. I'm really nervous about the fact that it's going to be split. Each of you are going to start with 33%, and whoever gets the next amount of percentage is going to win the election. So I just don't want to get back to that point of square one again. That's all.
Yeah, no, great comments, and because I got a minute 20 left here. So, we're building our campaign, and part of our campaign is having a person in every branch, in every station, that's going to be working to get out the vote, and specifically to get out the vote to get Brian Renfro up out of there, So we're going to provide everyone materials. You can go on the website and volunteer and say, hey, I want to help out. We'll send you all type. We have case magnets, we have pens, we have buttons, we have stickers, we have materials you can post up and you can hand out. And, it's like, get your members involved so they'll be ready to vote when the time comes. And we should be able to I don't believe in compromising our principles and compromising what our goal is in order to get someone elected. I think that we can have both. You can get the person that you want, and you can keep your principles and your integrity, and make sure that every member has a choice. And you do that by mobilizing and activating the membership. And we're doing that specifically by organizing this campaign, very structured, starting with the region and then the branch and then down to each station. So hopefully that gives you a little confidence that we can succeed. And we've raised $70,000 already. The finances are up on the website. You can see that. And we're going to be raising a lot more for sure.
All right. Well, good luck.
Thanks, Ray. Hey, Ray, did you find out about this through the Postal Record or someplace else?
I found out I was doing it through Facebook, I think.
Okay. Because we're going to put an ad in the Postal Record. That's another way to kind of get your message out. We put an ad in March and April edition, and we'll probably put an ad in every Postal Record all the way up until the election. And I think that's a good way to get in, for people to be aware as well.
All right. Good luck, man.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Alrighty, next up is Jeremy Badgett.
You tried.
I did. Is he in here still?
Yeah. There we go. I'm unmuted. Okay, I don't have a camera, but I do have a question. I'm from a smaller branch. I'm in Wyoming, 1006. What are you going to do to help out these smaller branches of management, like walking all over us? Because I've been battling for the last 4 months of the 5-minute office time of PM.
Oh, I thought you were like 5-minute office time. Damn.
Well, they had us down. They tried to push 20-minute start office time too.
Right, 20 minutes in the morning and 5 in the afternoon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, man. So it is a challenge, just because you have a certain number of resources and everyone pays the same amount of dues. But the smaller branches and the ones that are further out, it costs a little bit more to get out there. But I believe we're a union. I believe that an injury to one is an injury to all, and I believe that if any member needs the services of the NALC, that we should provide that. And so, and I don't pass any judgment on what's going on right now. I just can say that as president of the union, if any member contacts either the regional office or NALC headquarters, we're going to make sure that that issue is being addressed, those grievances are being filed, that we're dealing with management in the ways that we have to, no matter where they're from or what size branch or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, brother.
Yeah, I just want to jump back in.
Hey, there's John Murphy.
Whoa.
Yeah. So this is John Murphy. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Next Generation Carriers podcast. We're the ones that put this event together. Currently, we are nearing 2 hours of this event. We've had a list of people. I think there was 24 people so far on Stack with questions already answered. And up next, if you're listening on Facebook, the Zoom link is inside the Facebook chat and also on our Facebook page, Next Generation Carriers. jump in, ask a question. Mike Caref has agreed to go as long as we want. So until the people stop asking questions, Caref will be here.
Text one of these kids, tell them to bring me a sandwich.
I want to give a shout out to everyone that has been here for the nearly 2 hours along with us, because my wife came home and was like, "What are you still doing on this Zoom?" And it's like, "Oh, this is the Mike Caref event." She was like, "All right, cool, thanks," and she walked away.
Good to know I'm in good with the family, brother.
Yeah, we put a lot of resources into this, so I want to say thank you to everyone so far that has been part of this. The Next Generation Carriers is trying to transform our union. I don't think this has ever been done before, and we hope that this continues, not just this election cycle, but future election cycles, because we all pay union dues. It is our union, and we need to start owning our union. We can no longer allow the suits and the ties in the union bureaucracy to tell us what to do. It's time for us to tell them what to do. So thank you. I'll pass it back to Josh.
You're here, brother.
Hey, Murph, did she drop you off of dunks like my wife did? Oh, gotta step it up.
No free ads.
All right, we're gonna hand it off to Michael Romero. Remember, camera, name, and branch number. All right. Going once.
Hold on. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yep, you're on.
Awesome. All right. How's it going? Mike Romero from Branch 19. And it's a pleasure to get to actually speak to you, Mike. I've been following you for a while. And I kind of admire a lot of the movements that you do, and especially that rally you did with ICE and all that. I respect that. Took a lot of courage to stand up to the system. You know, my main concern is that, like, and I'll keep it 100 with you. You know, you're on the board. You know, you sit with these people every day, like, and you've been there. So I'm just like, what is gonna change? You, a guy that's been there, and like, I know it takes more than just one person. Like, it takes a whole collection of people to move, you know, politics and all that. But do you think you have what it takes to persuade everybody to go your way? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
And to try to,
here's the reality, man. We thought so back in 2022. I considered running for president, and it was a lot going on in my personal life, and I just couldn't really dedicate myself, and I probably would have lost anyway. But I was going to run just because, you know, I have a philosophy of what the union should be, and I feel like the members should, like I say, get what they want, and if they wanted me, they should have that option at least. But we didn't really have an option, and we ended up all kind of running together. And what a lot of people said at that time was, "Hey." It doesn't really it's not as significant who the president is because you have all these people at the table. And like you said, I've been on the board for
it's
a
not,
lot of years.
it's
Well,
not true.
it's exactly, it's not true at all.
It's not true at
And
all.
this president has proven to all of us that it really, 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 really matters who the president is. And then everything else comes in, you know, way second and way third and way fourth. And so that's why I'm running for president. Feel like, you know, that's how I'm going to have the most influence, and that's how I'm going to be able to accomplish the things that we all want to accomplish by using me in that role as the president, because I clearly serve the members of the union, and I clearly have a plan and a strategy of how we're going to go about it, and I have a leadership structure, and I have experience, and so I'm offering myself, I'm giving of myself to this union in the role of the president so that we can try to move forward. And within that, I'm going to work with everybody else. But the president is the decision maker on so many different things that I feel confident I'll be able to accomplish the things that are good for the union. If I'm in,
I'm not gonna lie, man. My route, right, is 12 miles. I walk 12 miles every day.
How many
right?
steps is that?
It's about like 40,000 steps.
Holy shit!
Right? I walk 40,000 steps every day, yo. Right? And then I come back to the office. I get belittled by my manager. telling me every day, this kid is fucking born in 91, excuse my language. And, you know, he probably never, honestly, not one supervisor has ever walked me on my route. Ever.
They couldn't.
Not one. Not
They don't
one.
have they don't have the stamina for it. They don't have ankles for that, man.
But what I'm trying to say is like
40,000
but
steps.
when I come out of when I come out of work, they always telling me, oh, you're out there playing games, you're out there, and then they ask me about stationary time
The
for 5 minutes.
disrespect, man.
For 5 minutes, like you know what I'm saying, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes to 15 minutes, like come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
Hey,
I'm
Mike,
not a
I
robot.
appreciate what you're doing out there every day, and I'm gonna save you from Brother Town coming in and cutting off your microphone. But we got to move on.
You know what though? I'm gonna.
No,
You know
you're
what though?
not.
I'm gonna ask a.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to say, how are you going to address this culture problem that we have in some of these offices? How can you, as the national president, set the tone and say enough is enough, and not the enough is enough of the let it carry of violence, but
got you.
enough and enough of getting bullied from
Yeah.
some of these people in some of these stations.
I mean, like I keep saying, we got to get rid of this board supervisor. Their role has been, it's been automated, it's outdated. They're really just there to harass us. So I think that's goal number one. But also, every single instance of bullying, threatening, intimidating, and harassing behavior needs to be addressed. There is a zero tolerance. The joint statement on violence behavior in the workplace is very clear. And so we need to organize our union to make sure there's still a lot of our people that have this misconception that it needs to rise to some particular level in order for us to file a grievance. No, we have a grievance every single time there's an instance of bullying, threatening, intimidating, and harassing behavior by a supervisor onto one of our members. And we do need to organize ourselves to be a lot more aggressive in addressing those issues. And of course, we got to fix the damn grievance procedure. So, like I say, these things are not going to happen overnight, but that's the approach we need to take for sure. The culture is terrible. They hate us for no damn reason. And, like this brother is walking 40,000 steps out there serving the public, and the supervisor's sitting on their ass telling him what kind of job he's doing. Like, fuck you. Excuse my language. I'm sorry on a Sunday, but I know that's what Mike is saying to that supervisor.
So, Mike, you mentioned about the management and the supervisors, and yeah, supervisors are kind of something that can be automated now. But what about the increase of management all the way up? Since I believe it was 2011, is a 43% increase, where there's 42% less craft jobs during that time. We saw Steiner go up and talk about his labor costs, when we know it's not his labor costs, it's his non-labor costs. How is that something that you would try to address? Because the harassment just comes down the hill. Your supervisor might be harassing you. He's getting harassed by his postmaster, who's getting harassed in a Zoom phone call that's going all the way up to DMs and all the way up the ladder. How do you address that? Is that something you bring to the public and say, hey, look, this place is losing money, but they're spending it all on this, something that they didn't have as a position 5-6 years ago that has just been created?
Yeah, Chris, you want to put the timer up on this one. There's a lot. The culture of the Postal Service is broken, and there's a concern that if we talk to Congress or we talk to the public about how bad it is, how bloated they are, how much they waste, how bad the culture is, that if we do that, that gives energy to the people that want to privatize the Postal Service, right? And particularly under the current Congress, there's a real concern that maybe no action is the best thing we can get out of this Congress, and then we'll see what happens with the next one. But maybe, but I think you also at the same time have to have a plan, because it just gets worse and worse, right? And I think the plan we need to have is, one, on the economic front, what is the Postal Service economically? Meaning that how are they going to bring in more revenue so that we can continue to grow and be that service delivery mechanism for America? But also, how is the Postal Service going to be structured? And the structure right now, there is nobody in management, as many of them as they have, and there's way too many. They're tripping over themselves. Nobody gives a shit about the service. And that's crazy. How do you have people that you hire? One, they don't adhere to the terms of the contract. They don't care about the employees. They hate us. And they don't really think about the health of the postal service, and they don't really focus on serving the people. So how do you have control over that? Normally, you say, okay, you have the board of governors. The board of governors has a postmaster general, and then the postal master general sets up that leadership team that runs the postal service. And I think that we have to get to the board of governors, and if that doesn't work, we have to get to Congress to have some oversight of the postal service. But we have to do it in a smart way that doesn't lend credence to the people that want to privatize the postal service. Does that make any sense at all?
Maybe we should have maybe we should have people that are almost board of governors on podcasts to discuss it. It might be a good idea.
Yeah, they just nominated 4 people, so reach out to them and get them on.
All right. Next up is Adam Crosby. Please, camera on, name and branch number.
Adam Crosby, we've chatted before, branch 210, Rochester, New York. Mike,
Yes,
how are
sir.
you?
I'm good, brother.
I don't have all
Happy
that many
Sunday.
questions since we've talked multiple times before.
Yeah, they can search it. They can search it up and go to your Table 2 podcast. And we did 2 episodes. They were lengthy.
That's
They were
valid.
good.
I know. I think
They
we
were
got 3
good, man.
hours asking questions. Quick question, kind of relates to the last question. Did you by any chance happen to see Brian's podcast with the naps?
No, I haven't seen that yet. Did you?
No. Yeah, I listened to it.
What'd you think?
I mean, I'm not a fan. It kind of shows that relationship that the NALC has taken towards management. I mean,
It was weird,
I don't
man.
think he's had a NALC podcast in what 3-4 months, and he's out there hanging out with postmasters and
I thought the same thing, man. Like, wow, but okay.
So yeah, this idea of limiting management or kind of eliminating management, all that kind of goes out the window when you got the NALC kind of lobbying with them or
Exactly.
cooperating with them.
Right.
So you didn't see it. I suggest you go watch it. It's interesting.
Okay.
You had mentioned the executive council had a meeting, or you guys were expected to be down in DC this past week.
Yeah, we were.
Was everyone expected to be there?
I know where you're going with this.
I was just curious.
Well, I'll say this. So,
Are people do they generally just excuse people if they got something else going on?
I don't know about they. So, the executive council is obviously chaired by the president. So, the president would have to say if he, quote, excuses someone or not. One thing that the president has not been good at is scheduling the meetings with a lot of advance notice. And so I know, I think you're probably referring to James Henry was not there. He was on leave. He had already, he had already set up a campaign event in Pittsburgh in Branch 84, which, I'm glad he's, out campaigning and responsive to the membership, and he's using his own leave to do that. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. But of course,
it's more of a short-term scheduling thing.
Yeah, I mean, well, or you just saying, "Hey, I'll tell you from my point of view, and I don't speak for nobody else. I have made some adjustments. Like I was supposed to be in Corpus Christi, Texas. I don't even know, a 1269 maybe. But anyway, I called the president and said, "Hey, man, I'm not going to be able to make it. I got called to DC," and he said, "Okay, well, we'll schedule you for next month." That kind of thing. That's the way I would do it because I feel like, my duty to be on the executive council, even though the executive council is very dysfunctional and we don't accomplish a whole lot, but I feel like there's only 28 of us and it's an honor and a privilege to sit on that board. And if I can, I'm going to be there at that meeting. That's my perspective on it. But,
Gotcha.
I understand people have leave scheduled and things like that as well. So.
Last question, if time's up.
No, go ask.
That was my fault, man.
I'm gonna be pushing an activist roundtable pretty soon to get people from every one of these groups, all the activist groups together pretty soon to discuss kind of common ground because I think Renfro is currently a threat to this upcoming contract. So I want to discuss common ground between all the activist groups to discuss what we can do currently. Besides, running against him, what we can do currently to kind of push that agenda, which, there's very little because he is a president and they like you've mentioned, they have too much power. So he can shut it down no matter what. But I'm going to, any interest in coming on that?
Yeah, very interested in hearing about that. And also keep in mind, he does have a lot of power, but we do have a convention this year and the delegates to the convention are the supreme body. If there's something we think would help to get passed in Los Angeles, we should plan for it and organize for that.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
I'll
thank you.
send you an invite.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks.
Hey, can I just follow up on that?
Yep.
You know, I get you guys have to run, and this isn't a shot at you. It's not a shot at James. It's not a shot at Brian. It's not a shot at anybody running for president. But isn't getting the contract or like all the good ideas? And if Brian doesn't take the idea, don't we want someone to say, "Well, Brian, you're not going to listen to me. I'm going to keep speaking. If you're going to strip my powers, I'm going to fight to get my powers back or my duties back." But I'm like, I think I could speak for like the rank and file and the 200,000 carriers will say, like, we don't care about the campaigns. Like, we do and we don't, but we'd rather see everybody working together because this isn't a Republican, Democrat, independent, blue, red thing. It's like one group with a bunch of little caucuses or whatever. But I think we want everybody down there working for what's best for everybody, not just what's best for the next president or whoever. And I think people, rank and file people, get frustrated with that because it's not about campaigning. It's about getting the best contract for everybody. So I don't know if you can see it or like the CLC sees it. And I don't know if Brian sees it, but like, it's not about getting elected. It's about getting the best for the 200,000 people that literally watched the news the other day and are wondering if they have a job in a year because people aren't as well adverse or follow it as much as this little bubble in here. So I think like every campaign, anybody that's running should really just say, you know, we're out what's best for you. If it's between getting you a better contract or campaigning, I'm going to get you a better contract. I think that's what people want to hear from anybody running. You know, I'm not saying you guys have to sing Kumbaya together, but I think this is where people are starting to get aggravated.
Yeah, look, man, I share the members' frustration, but I also can tell you that as a fact, the meeting we had this week didn't accomplish anything. And I think you can ask anyone on the executive council how they feel, and they'll probably tell you that we didn't accomplish anything. And I firmly blame President Renfro for that. The way he organizes the executive council is very unproductive. I don't even know why he does it that way. It's really weird. When he became the president in December of 2022. I think it was our first executive council meeting or our first big one. We had an executive council meeting in Marietta, Georgia, January of 2023. We have a regional office there, and we met there. And that meeting, there was an extensive agenda down to the minute. 3 minutes for this, 5 minutes for this, 8 minutes for this, 2 days, and everything was laid out. And then, everything kind of fell apart with President Renfro in his personal life and, those kind of things. And then the whole contract process was a mess. Charges were brought against him. And ever since then, he hasn't organized any real executive council meetings. We don't have any subcommittees. We don't get an agenda. There really is no substantial discussion that takes place. And I say all that to say, if a member of the union wants to judge James or me or anyone for not being at a council meeting, you got to really take into account that there really is nothing happening there of substance and nothing that's really being accomplished. So, I do think we have an obligation to be there because we're officers of the union. But I also think that, there's other things. We also are people and we have obligations. And quite frankly, I feel like the best thing we can do for our union right now is to get a new president. That's by far the best thing we can do. And so I have to govern myself accordingly, right? Like I don't really have any involvement in the negotiations with the Postal Service, and the president doesn't involve me in any way, and the president doesn't involve James in any way. And so if James feels that it was more important for him to go to Pittsburgh to talk to the brothers and sisters in Branch 84, I really can't fault him for that because I think that's a legitimate judgment call. I probably wouldn't have made that call, but I would have weighed it and would have had to figure that one out as well. So I don't know if that helps, but executive council meetings, people have this vision of what goes on there, and it's not like that at all. Totally unproductive.
Alrighty, we're getting ready to move on to Ryan Eggstrand. Please have your camera up, state your name and branch number. You are now able to unmute.
No longer here.
Oh, he is gone. That's unfortunate. All right, we're going to move on to the next person. Derek Thibault. Name, branch number, and have your camera on.
How we doing? My camera's broken, so unfortunately I can't put it on. I'm branch 44 out of Salem, New Hampshire. I'm just curious with everything going on with the Postal Service right now, with the president and everyone trying to attack us, what you're going to do to prevent that.
The question is everything going on with the Postal Service and how we're going to prevent the attacks against us?
Yes.
Okay. I think that the legislative thing, we got to have a stopgap against any privatization, because once you go down that privatization road, you can't come back from that. Once they start like selling off post offices or vehicles, or they start limiting their service, I think that's a road to not having a universal postal service like we have now. So you have to have a stopgap on privatization, which I think we do have. I think we have enough members in Congress that would vote against any privatization move or whatever. So I think that's the first thing. But then after that, I think you have to have a plan for the Postal Service. And we saw the Postmaster General's testimony March 17th, 12 days ago. We saw that testimony, and it really didn't come up with a plan going forward other than we're going to start cutting services. We're going to have more non-career employees, which we know is not going to work. That's a further reduction in service. And there's really no plan to capture what I think, the Postal Service has always delivered everything every day, and that's been the strength of the Postal Service. And so they built this network, and they said, you have a universal service obligation. You have to connect America. You have to provide this service of communication and goods and everything to every single American, no matter where the hell they live at. And we've seen the number of deliveries because of the expansion of the country. It goes up every day. They add millions of deliveries per year, and the Postal Service continues to make those deliveries wherever they are. And it's always worked because on the other side, the Postal Service has always had a monopoly on first-class mail. We have a monopoly on the mailbox. But we're seeing today that the modern delivery is in spurs and is in people wanting something delivered, ordering it and wanting it delivered that day or at the very latest the next day. And we have a great delivery network that can do that, but the Postal Service does not have the capability or a plan to capture that market. And we have to have both a legal plan, meaning a past legislation, and we also have to have a structural plan. And I think we should have a monopoly on anything that fits in a mailbox, and that makes sense to offset that universal service obligation. But outside of a plan, this thing is going down.
And then a real quick too. So I was 99 last Friday. So with all the downtime now, they're trying to hand off all these pieces to everybody. So from what I heard from my postmaster, is they want to give 30 minutes off a route to everybody in the office.
Yeah, I mean, what's gonna happen is we're already seeing them going in and eliminating a lot of assignments. We're seeing that if you don't have a average of 8 hours, they're going and taking these steps. And so that's what happens when you don't build up your business. When you don't build up your business, and we used to have an average of almost 6 pieces per delivery out there on the street, and now we're under 3 pieces of matter, either mail or packages per delivery point. And so the revenues have been flat for at least the last 5 years, while inflation has gone up by 18%. And so it's going to start having a drastic effect on us and our job and our livelihood. And if we don't do anything about it, it's going to start a downward spiral where the Postal Service is no longer the delivery mechanism for America, which would be the first time in 250 years that happens. And we got to do everything we can to prevent that from happening.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Alrighty. Can we have Chad Peak? Please have your camera on, name and branch number.
Oh, hey, Chad Peak, branch 547, Northern Indiana. I really just here for support. I'm just a member. I'm not involved with the official position or anything, but no, just glad to see people are taking control and getting stuff done. Um, that's all I'm here for.
Where do you deliver mail at, Chad?
Goshen.
Goshen, I got you. Okay,
It's a merged branch, Elkhart, Goshen, Syracuse.
got you. Thanks, brother.
But no, Mike, I'll let you have my time, buddy. Appreciate you.
All right, man. Well, hey, I'll take the time to refer everyone to go to the website, careforprez.org. We're looking for volunteers. We're looking for people to sign up and help out. We're looking for people to get information out to their coworkers. If you want to donate to the campaign, you can go there. Please read the platform. The platform is very extensive. You can also read it, like 14 pages. You can listen to it. You can watch it on YouTube. So, Chad, I appreciate you getting in there and giving me a little time to put a couple of pubs in.
Yeah. Hey, it's all you, man. Appreciate everything you're doing.
Thanks, brother. They appreciate you as well.
You still got another minute and 40 seconds to spitball if you want, Mike.
Nah, let's keep going because I've went over a few times already.
All right, then. Remember, we have a 3-minute time limit, and we're going to go with question and answer. So with that being said, we're going to kick it over to Steve Mahoney. Please get your camera ready. Name
Steve Mahoney,
and
branch 41. You got me on? Steve Mahoney, branch 41. Just following up with you, Mike. You know, I got kind of scared there because you and Renfro were in a little bit of a lockstep when you gave your answer about the COLA. He also deferred to the will of the body. But to be a leader of an organization, I think you really got to be able to step back. And at these high cost of living areas, San Diego, Boston, Pittsburgh, New York City, what it actually costs to live and work here. In New York City, they're going to be going up to a $30 an hour minimum wage. How do you compete? You want the quality of the service. So also to bring you up to date on that collective begging, no, it's alive and well. All of us people in these high cost of living, we go begging at every convention and we get shut down by our brothers and sisters. We do go collective begging. I witnessed it at the last convention, the one before and the one before. So that's where we have to step back, I think, as brothers and sisters and say, do they have a valid point? You mentioned about the money, that the executive board doesn't know where it's going. I thought that is something that's supposed to be talked about at, be it a general meeting or an executive board meeting. And there's articles in our Constitution when it comes to those reports and also in bringing people up on charges. And that's something on a personal level, like I had to do, because it seems sometimes the president locally and nationally, they temporarily suspend people from doing their job. And that's just something that I guess each person, whether they're on a national or local level, they have to look and see what they can do with that. San Diego, out in Long Island, they're hiring right to career, PTFs, but not here in New York City and not here in a lot of other of these high cost of areas. We got to get rid of the CCA. We need all career.
What gives the president the right to negotiate a contract that pays people differently depending on where they get hired on? When the delegates to the convention, who's the supreme body of the union, have voted that down on multiple occasions.
No. The point I was making was
it should be all career, and we should tell the Postal Service. Like I said, we need to tell the Postal Service we have one contract. We don't our people, at least up to now. That vote was kind of close last time in Boston. It may win over in Los Angeles, but to me, there's pros and cons to it. I'm the president. I follow the will of the members. What I'm saying is that if the will of the members is that a letter carrier is a letter carrier is a letter carrier, then I think we need to make sure that we negotiate a contract that works for all of our members. Meaning that if we have a contract where you're hiring PTFs over here, like you just alluded to, in Long Island, they're hiring PTFs. In New York City, in Manhattan, in Brooklyn.
No. In New York City, they're not. They are not. They're
exactly.
Doing it in San Diego because they couldn't get nobody to take the job.
Because we've allowed that in our contract. There's a memorandum that the NELC signed off on, that Brian Renfro signed off on as our president, and then he rolled that memorandum over into the new contract that we have currently, where he agreed to those terms. And those terms are that the Postal Service can hire career where they want to and can hire non-career where they want to. That's crap. We have a national contract. Everyone should be in career status. Everyone should negotiate a contract for every single letter carrier that affects everyone the same. And like I say, in the high cost of living areas, I've been a big proponent of a $30 an hour starting pay. I think our job requires that. I don't think you're going to get qualified applicants in a lot of these places. And like I say, it's the United States Postal Service. It's the National Association of Letter Carriers. We have a national contract. And so that contract should reflect pay and benefits that attract employees that are capable of doing the job every place in the country. And if you're paying less than $30 an hour in some of these places, you're never going to attract quality employees.
Well, in our federal workforce, they do give a cost of living in these high areas. So that is something that is given in the federal government.
And they pay less in other areas. So like I say, as a union, we have to weigh those things and the pros and cons. And we'll see. We'll see what the delegates in Los Angeles want to do. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We are moving on to Austin Webb. Please have your camera on, name, and branch number.
I'm Austin Webb, branch 763, Columbia, Missouri. Mike, you fielded a lot of hard questions today, and I just want to say respect for that, because when you met at my branch back in June of 2025, you said that you would work your hardest to earn my trust, but also, you said that you weren't scared to answer any questions. So I just want to give you that respect for that. So, but I won't beat you up. I won't beat you up with any more hard questions. I just want to kind of come in here with a little bit more of a lighthearted one. Baseball season's back in swing. So, being a guy from Chicago, who you got? Cubs, White Sox, or the Cards? And then second question is going to be, what's one important lesson that you've learned being an MBA that is going to be useful for you being a president?
Well, the baseball thing, I don't really care that much anymore, to be honest with you. I got my plate full. I heard the White Sox got their ass beat on opening day. I haven't followed any of it. But that's what I got kids for. They give me the updates. If I get a chance to see a ball game, I do. Now, that's one thing that, you can meet up with someone and go watch a game and have a little conversation and catch up, some of the like Step B reps and things like that. That's something that we've done in the past. Go sit out there and watch a game and talk business on behalf of the members. So that's something I look forward to if I have any time to do so. But the second part, what have I learned as an MBA? I think the number one thing is you have to work with people. And that is easier said than done. And I haven't always been successful, but I've always tried. And I think that everyone has something that they bring to the table. Particularly as the MBA, you deal with the branches a lot. You're the kind of intermediary between NELC headquarters and the national union and the branch, right? And so you want to know what they're doing with their grievances. You want to know that the members are being represented, that the constitutional things are being followed. And you have to build relationships with those people, and you have to ask them questions. How do you do this? And really respect the work and the energy and the time that they put into being a union leader. And I really respect that. But I think that that's something that is very valuable and something that I've learned. And that's what I want to take to the national level. When we have our executive council, it's like, okay, we're going to get to know each other. We're going to work together. We're going to collaborate. And that's what makes us strongest as a union, by respecting one another, valuing what you bring to the table, and you listening to me and me listening to you, kind of thing. I think that's the number one thing I've learned as the business agent.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, before we move on, I just want to say once again, if you're watching on Facebook, please jump into the conversation. The link is there. And I want to give a shout out to Ronnie Morgan for stepping in for Chris and really keeping me locked in on this time constraint. With that being said, I'd like to flip it over to Bill Gainey. Please have your camera on, name and branch.
Hi, Billy Gainey, branch 358, Northeastern New York. I got 3 questions. We'll go one at a time. Mike, as you know, I was in D.C. last week lobbying with Congress. New York State Association has traditionally done a fantastic job with lobbying. Other states aren't. There's varying degrees of success, I guess, with different states. Would you make any changes to the legislative and political department of the NELC, the structure of the state associations, the LICLs, the LPOs, the people working at the LPO, the legislative and political office down there?
Yeah, I think that the LPO position, legislative political organizer, I think should focus on organizing the members of the union, and particularly the one person who's the liaison to that congressional district. I think we need to work on our relationship with that congressperson and making sure we're doing everything we can to get that person on our side, as opposed to focusing on the letter care political fund. But structure wise, I think everything should come through the regional office, including all of our legislative activities and our letter care political fund activities, meaning that you have the state associations. Some state associations don't even collect a lot of dues at all. And they don't really have a budget to do anything like go to DC or lobby or whatever. And so I think that the regional office has to kind of perform those functions, provide that leadership role, no matter what. Of course, you work with the state associations in the same way you work with the branches in getting the grievances done. But I think you work with the state associations on legislation, but I don't think you just say, well, that's their job and that's not my job. I think the regional office has to oversee that, collaborate, work with them, and that's part of their job. So yeah, I would change it a little bit.
I agree with that. It seems like the regions are, grievance activity and this and that, and the state association. There should be a collaboration between the two. My next question, I've been around a long time, and it seems in the last recent years, there's been a lot of assistance to the president down in national. It seems like there's more than normal. Do you think there's too many assistants to the president right now, or, should we make some of those permanent positions?
I don't know. So you have, like, let's say people that work in city delivery. They call them assistant to the president, but they work in city delivery. I don't know how many people the different officer positions need, but I generally think you should get what you need. I mean, we're not broke as a union; we have money, and so if you need people on your staff, you're trying to accomplish things. You have. I don't know what all the departments do, but generally, maybe you change the term. I'm in the city delivery department instead of saying I'm a special assistant to the president. Maybe that would help. But the president does have more people working for them, but that's just because the president, he doesn't trust his officers and he takes away their duties and that kind of thing. So anyway, but yeah,
my time's up.
Damn.
Thank you.
Go ahead. You got one more. Go ahead, man.
The last question is personal. It seems like if you run for NBA again, you'll most likely win. Easy race, no brainer. You stay right in Illinois with your kids. You run for president. Let's say you lose. What happens to Mike Caref if he loses this race?
My kids win, man, because they haven't seen a lot of me during this campaign. But if I'm back here in my route, I'll be going to pick them up from school and, all the things that I enjoy. So I'm good. Ronnie Morgan's running for business agent in Region 3. I think he's going to do a great job, probably better than me in some aspects. But we need a president, and I think I can be that person. And if the members agree, I'm going to do the job, and my kids support that, and they understand that, and we carve out our time. We had a little family dinner here yesterday. I cooked for them, and everyone was here. But they understand I'm running for president of the union. That's going to take time, and if I'm elected president, it's going to take a bit more time. So we're good with that, brother. I do appreciate it, though. Thanks. And good to see you this week, man.
I guess my point was, I just think it's unique that you're not afraid to go deliver mail.
Oh, not at all. Not at all, man. I love delivering mail. To me, it's great being outside. Even the weather can be bad, but being outside is great. I like people, so I like interacting with the customers. I like being on the workroom floor. Everyone getting together and like telling management no, and things like that. I like all of that. And I like hey, they pay you to stay in shape, right? So nothing wrong with that either. So it's I never believed that being a union rep is a career. I've always thought we're letter carriers, and just like you take the escalator up, right, and it gets you there faster, and that works. But if the escalator is broken, it's still stairs. It's fine. Like if you're not a union rep, you go back to being a letter carrier. That's fine. That's what we're here for. No problem there, brother.
All right, next up is Taylor Vennard. Please have your camera on, name and branch number.
Hey there. Am I on? Oh, there I am. Okay, sorry. I'm
You're
in
on
the
the
middle of
clock.
okay, I'm in the middle of cleaning my house, so disregard my appearance right now. And also, Townie, great job of saying my last name. Nobody gets that right. I asked this question to President Renfro at our regional rap session, and he completely blew me off, which I'm not surprised. I understand that he has a reputation of maybe not liking to answer women's questions. So I'm going to ask my question anyways to Mike Caref. Mike, the question I asked President Renfro was based on his 3 years of his presidency going into his fourth, how would you rank yourself from A to F on your signature in your position as NBA president? I'm sorry, NBA of Region 3.
You want the last 4 years or the whole time?
You choose.
I think the whole time, I would say about an A minus. I mean, we really, really did really good, especially in the beginning. But there was so many things I wanted to change with communication with the members, with the training. I wanted to, get a handle on the grievance process. We accomplished so many things through the grievance process at all different levels, but particularly if we had to go to arbitration, we got really good at making sure we won, especially the vital arbitrations, if that makes sense. There's particular issues that you really want to win. Like I really wanted to win emergency placement. I can't stand when they put someone off the clock and make them sit out there for months. And we worked really hard and organized ourselves to make sure we can win those grievances. And now management knows, you put someone on emergency placement, you're going to pay them. And it's kind of we've kind of changed the dynamic on that and a few other things too, that we were very successful on. I think anyone that stays in a job too long, and I do think I've been in this job for too long as the business agent. If I wasn't running for president, I wouldn't run again as the business agent, to be honest with you guys, because I feel like after a while you kind of you run out of ideas. You need a fresh perspective to come in, and so this last term it's been a struggle. And then, it's just been a struggle kind of keeping up with everything a little bit. It's been a struggle to innovate and come up with new ideas and better ideas. And quite frankly, it's been a struggle because we're not getting the support from the national union. Like we have these problems in the grievance process, and I need the national union to address them, to file grievances, to negotiate a better contract. Like I need the national union to do these things that help us in the regional office to do our job. And that relationship is not there with the national union, particularly with President Renfro. And so that has had a negative effect on what we're able to accomplish. So this past term, probably more of a B minus in as far as what we've been able to accomplish. But overall, probably done pretty good, I would say. I mean, you gotta ask the members of the members. What grade do you give President Renfro?
Well, I wouldn't give him a very high grade,
Me
but
neither.
also I am a 6-year letter carrier, and I have never been in part of an organization that is so dysfunctional from the outside. These podcasts have really educated me over the last handful of years about the lack of transparency, the lack of communication. And to me, with such a big organization, I'm unfamiliar with unions. This is all a new concept for me. I'm just floored about the amount of lack of communication all around. And I would like,
transparency.
yes,
You
yes,
should
and I
know
would
what's
like to
going
see
on
that
at all
change.
times. Yeah,
Yes,
I'm with you on that.
absolutely.
I appreciate that. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Brian Harper. Please have your camera on, state your name and your branch number. All right, going once.
Can you hear me?
There we are. Yep, you're on live. Ronnie, start the clock.
Just quick question. I just had a question about the 1522 Fairness Retirement Fairness Act, where CCAs can buy back their time. Why is this not being pushed harder? And like, why? Pretty much, what's the reason for it for not like continuing on in the Congress?
That is a great question. The reason why it's not being pushed harder is because we don't think we can win it. And the reason why we don't think we can win it is it's going to require money from someplace. So right now, when you're in the FERS annuity, you as an employee, prior to 2014, we were paying 0.8%. Now current employees are paying 4.4% of their money. But the Postal Service has to put in their portion, which is, it adds up to about 15 or 16%. And so the Postal Service is putting the rest of that money in. And so what would the legislation require? Would it require the post office to put the money in? Would it require the federal government to put the money in order to, so that the funds would have the money to pay out the people that want to utilize those years of non-career service toward their retirement, which is what we all want. And so legislatively, we have this DC-based lobbying program. And in DC, nobody thinks that it's going to be successful, so we're not able to push it through. And if we had a grassroots lobbying program where we went to every congressional office in America and we said, hey, this is what we want, and we want you to help us get there, and want you to sign on to this, and then push it from the bottom up, I think we'd have a much better chance of it being successful. But that's not generally the program that we're running right now. And that's why you're seeing something like the Retirement Fairness Act not being pushed, or we're not able to accomplish it like we should be able to. If you look at it, most of the legislation we've been able to pass has been legislation that favors the Postal Service. That's not just independent legislation that the letter carriers are bringing forth. And it's because we're not utilizing our network of letter carriers around the country to push our Congress people from the bottom up to make sure we get shit passed that benefits us.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, the other thing is we got to stop negotiating a contract that has non-career employees and then going to Congress and saying, well, we should get credit for all of our time. We're the ones negotiating the damn contract and accepting those terms. It'd be different if those terms were imposed upon us, but we're signing contracts as the National Association of Letter Carriers saying this is acceptable to us. I mean, we made no progress on the CCA classification in the last contract. Which does, I think, also makes it harder when you're trying to push legislation that you yourself agreed to in the last contract,
All right, thank you for answering my question.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, Mike. A valid point. If we negotiate it in and then ask to buy it back, it's very, very interesting. Pushing that off, we're going to Christopher Fober. Please have your camera on, state your name and branch number.
Hey, how are you? Chris Fober, branch 44, Manchester, New Hampshire. The question I had was, whoops, it just went away. I had it written down here. What are we doing at national level to notify our representatives what's going on with the mail? I know it's happening nationwide from what I've seen on different platforms. Mail kind of being left behind. They give us sometimes like an end tour at 7 p.m. And if you're not going to be able to finish your route and the ox on top of that, they're telling you to prioritize the packages and then just bring back the mail. I'm just wondering, like, what is our national doing to let our representatives know about that? And what would you do in your shoes to, if you were the president, to notify our representatives about what's going on? Because if we did it ourselves as craft employees, we be held accountable for that? And why isn't management being held accountable for that?
Yeah, no, I agree, man. There's a carrier in my region in the city of Chicago right now that is she's up on felony charges of willful delay of mail, violating the U.S. code. And I went to the court hearing to kind of see if I could help her out in any way. And the OIG agent was there, or maybe Postal Inspection Service. But anyway, I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? You got, first of all, I've seen them issue citations to letter carriers under these circumstances, but also you're bringing her up on a felony charge for something that management does every single day. And he's like,
Yep.
yeah, we know. It's like, but the burden is always on the postal. And that's what's crazy about this job. This job has a level of visibility and a level of responsibility that's up here, but they pay us down here, and that
Yep.
makes no sense whatsoever. But to your point, what we should be doing is we should be documenting, and I think everyone should file a grievance, because I think a grievance requires the Postal Service to pay your steward to gather that information, to document what mail is not being delivered and why. Sometimes it's a staffing issue, but a lot of times it's because they just don't want to pay. They don't want to pay whatever the rate of pay is. And I think that the NALC hasn't done anything to address this issue nationally. So you're going to have to file those local grievances, and you're going to have to gather that information and get it into your local congressman's hand and have them to open up an inquiry, an official congressional inquiry, because their constituents are not getting mail 6 days a week like the law requires.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the constituents aren't even contacting their reps because they're nervous or afraid to get the post office in trouble, just like talking to people in general. Because they'll call the post office, but the post office isn't going to do anything about it because they're the ones that are actually doing it.
Yeah, we've tried that too. You go to the postmaster, you go to the POOM, you go to the district manager, you go to the area vice president. You keep going up the chain to find someone who's going to put a stop to this delay of mail, and we haven't found it yet. And so we're going to have to get some outside influence in here to stop it. And I think we should also be filing grievances as well, and possibly a national grievance on the issue if the Postal Service is going to make the argument that they have the right under the law to not deliver mail 6 days a week. Because I think that, if they want to make that argument, we should push that to a national interpretive issue. But it starts with everyone filing those grievances and contacting their congressman.
Definitely.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Alrighty, we're gonna move on to Ken Ken Grisby. Can you have your camera on, name ready, and branch number ready?
All done. You okay? Oh, you hit your phone?
I'm sorry. Is somebody still on?
You're on, brother. Oh,
you're on, Ken.
Yeah, no, I was hearing somebody else talking to me. As far as not having any influence on the current contract, how do you feel about sharing it with the whole executive council? Do you think that's too much? Is that overkill, or should it just be a limited number?
You mean the president?
Well, yeah, I proposed an amendment change, and I maintain that the executive council, together with the president, shall have authority and bargaining responsibility. How do you feel about that?
The logistics of it, I like the concept. I don't know the logistics. I mean, I don't know if every time you talk to the post office, you're going to have 28 people with you. But I think the concept of making sure that we're like a lot of eyes are on the process, right? Like I always think I'm doing good, but I always ask somebody, hey, what'd you think about that? And you want to kind of weigh the different proposals and options that are out there. And if you're not specifically involved, if the president is not sharing information, then there's no way for you to contribute, right? So I do think that whether it's the executive council or some smaller group or something, some group of people have to have intimate knowledge of all of the details of contract negotiations so that those people can collaborate and think and, that kind of thing. So I'm not against that being the executive council as long as it doesn't be overly burdensome and make it so you can't negotiate with the Postal Service.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Alrighty. Next up is Ibrahim Oscar. Have your camera up, your name and branch number ready.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. So, hey, brother Mike, Ibrahim Asghar again, branch 4323. Brother Mike, we saw you out carrying mail last November during one of the busiest times of the year in full uniform. Can you talk about why do you make it a point to carry mail? How long have you been doing it for? And what do you say to critics who claim you only put on the uniform 1 week a year and you aren't a real letter carrier on their podcast?
Well, I'm not going to get into a sparring match with anyone personally, but I know who you're referring to. His choice for president hasn't carried mail this millennium. I think it's quite hypocritical of him. But hey, this ain't about him. I started doing it. I want to say like 20. I became a business agent in late 2014. I started working full time for the union as vice president of the union in 2010. In 2009, I was on like JRAP or one of them joint processes. So I hadn't carried mail in 2009, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14. I ran for to be the business agent and I won. And then like 2015, 2016, maybe the post office subpoenaed me. There was some EEO for some guy who wasn't a member of the union. And I'm like, I'm not going to that. I'm on LWAP. And they said, no, you're a postal employee. You have to go. I said, all right. Well, my start time is, 7 a.m. and I'll be there. So I went and carried my route and then I left and I attended the EEO hearing. It was a blast and I wrote it up. I did like a diary of it. I should put it up on the website. It was a crazy day. It was like below zero. The scanner froze on me 3 times. And anyway, I had a blast. Like I said, I love being a carrier. And so ever since then, I said, there's a lot I'm missing out on as a union rep if I don't know what the carriers are going through. Like if I haven't experienced it myself, because you got a lot of changes with the NBD, you got a lot of changes with the mail flow, you got a lot of just changes on how the interaction goes on the workroom floor, and there's just a lot of different things. Equipment, man, we're using Amazon's equipment in the city of Chicago. That was crazy to me, right? But I wouldn't know any of these things unless I'm actually going out there delivering my route. And so I made this commitment and I said, I'm gonna carry my route at least 1 week out of the year. And so I've been doing that for, almost 10 years now. I go at least a week out of the year and carry my route. And I've carried it on other times, like Sundays or something like that in a crisis. But as the president, I think that'd be great. I think that the president should be a letter carrier. I don't have to pretend to be a letter carrier because I am one. I got Route 16 in 22nd Street Station, and I will go carry that route as the president, and I'll try to get the Postmaster General to bring his ass out there with me so that he can see what the job of a letter carrier, what we go through, and get that perspective as well. Thanks, brother.
Thank you. All right. Keeping a tight schedule here. That's good.
Tight schedule. Beep, beep.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Mike, don't worry. There's more people in this Zoom that listen to that podcast that Abraham referenced.
Yeah. He can't mention my name on the podcast because it costs him $1,000. But
yeah, mention a name. Yeah.
no, I'm talking about on that podcast. If he said if he says my name, he's going to pay the campaign $1,000. We haven't received no. I'm going to have to check with the treasurer because we haven't received no money in the campaign ever since he said that.
Hey, Mike, another question from Chris B. Chris Boudreau, Branch 12. If you were elected president, would you consider educating and training the membership to be nationally focused or keep it more to regional level?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, I don't really understand it either, but I think he's saying, would the training be done more at like my branch is 14? Would it be done more in the region, or would you recently they had informal training down at the Maritime Academy? And
I think that the national union should do training generally because the national union has a national contract. You're talking about contract enforcement, the members, the stewards, the branch officers. I think the national union should organize that and do it in a way that's most effective and cheapest for those branches and those members. And generally, that's going to be through the regional office because the regional office is going to be able to logistically do that, geographically, make it there. And also, one of the things we do, like we do our own Formula A training, we have our own leadership academy. We try to do as much training as we possibly can because there's only a certain number of slots when you talk about some of these national trainings. And the other advantage when we do it locally, we save the branches money, and also though the connections that they make are local, and so now you can kind of brainstorm and you can work together on your grievances and your issues and things like that. And the instructors and the mentors, they're accessible to you, and they're there for life, and they're people that are letter carriers in the general vicinity or union reps in the general vicinity. So I think for the most part that works better. Now I think there's a place for what the local branches do, and there's a place for the national union also to put out like tutorials and things like that, that are beneficial to everybody. Things we do at the national convention, for example, beneficial to everybody.
Cool, thank you. I want to give a shout out real quick to Kalil Small on Facebook. They threw $1 at our Facebook page, which is pretty cool. Thank you. They posted a question from Mike Caref. They posted a question for Mike Caref to ask: how can we ask for a raise if the quality of service is bad? Post-COVID, hired carriers don't know their jobs, nor will they take time to learn, and nobody comes to work.
Oh yeah, it's a mess out there, brother. What did you say the person's name was? Ask the question.
Kayla Small.
Okay.
I believe that's Khalil.
All right. So I think the reason why we asked for a raise is because our contract is not based on anything other than paying benefits comparable to those in the private sector of the economy of the United States. And we won that when we went out on strike in 1970. And I'll be damned if I'm going to piss all over the sacrifices that those brothers and sisters made back in 1970 when they put their lives on the line, and they put it all out there, and they risked it being illegal and all of that. And they did that in 1970, and they accomplished a change in the law. And they were underpaid, and the law said, okay, you're going to be able to negotiate directly with your employer, the United States Postal Service, which was no longer the federal government. It was its own entity. And if you don't come to terms during the negotiating period, we go in front of an interest arbitration panel, but the standard will be paying benefits comparable to those in the private sector of the economy of the United States. And so that is the standard. And I think we should get that money, meaning that we should be paid like UPS drivers, not like clerks, for example. And I think that when we get that money, it will also attract more employees. And I think we need to work on all of those things, the service. I think we need to bring back the 473 battery test. We need to make sure that carriers coming in are viewing this as a career, that they're taking the job seriously, that they're honoring the craft. We need to bring the dignity and the respect back, and we need to bring the desirability of the job. And the only way you're going to do that is by having a contract that you can stand on and you can be proud of. And right now, we don't have that contract, and we have the ability to get that contract because of the sacrifices that letter carriers made previous to us. And that's the path that we should take. We should make sure we get a good contract, and then we should work on all those other issues going forward with the Postal Service.
All right. Moving on, we have Derek Thibault. Please have your camera on, name and branch number.
Branch 44, New Hampshire.
Branch 44, New Hampshire, and I'm also no camera, by the way, just because I'm on my way to my daughter's softball game. But real quick, so when I was hired as a CCA, up here now they're hiring as PTFs, and then with the new past contract, they eliminated, I believe it was AA, A, and B, instead of them a C. I'm now E.
Well, in the tentative agreement, it was going to be elimination of AA, A, and B. But in the actual mediated settlement that they came to, it was only AA and A. So now it starts at B.
So do you feel like they should have jumped up a couple? So me, for instance, taking up 2 steps compared to where I'm at now. And then also, real quick, well, with Renfro's slogan, what would be your slogan to go with? And then I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much.
You don't like fight like hell? I don't know. I don't know if it's the slogan. It's the actions that are not reflective of the actual slogan. that is problematic. I mean, the brother couldn't have done any worse in the last round of contract negotiations. It took forever. We ended up getting a contract that really didn't address our issues, and it was voted down by the members, and you implemented it anyway. So to me, it couldn't have been any worse at a time where we had the most leverage coming out of the pandemic, and because of the gains that the Teamsters and a lot of other unions were making, and people were getting these big raises. And like I say, we have that comparability thing, especially with the UPS drivers. You know, they're topping out at $49 an hour. So I don't know if the slogan is the problem. I definitely think it's the action. And I'm sitting up here and I forgot the damn first part of your question. I've been taking notes, but I forgot
So
to.
I was AA.
Oh yeah, the steps. Okay, yeah. So I think that we should make sure that everyone gets credit for their postal time in a contract, and so I think the wording should say that here's what the pay chart is going to be, and that everyone is going to be slotted into the appropriate step based on the amount of time that they have working as a letter carrier. And so if it starts at B and you're 7 steps in, you should be 7 steps from B, which would have given you the 2-step increase as well, like you said. But I think that's the formulation that we should be negotiating for.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, brother.
Go enjoy your family.
Yeah, thanks.
So that's you're kind of meaning like how when the prior contract there with people that had was it TE time or whatnot, when they jumped up steps, like they jumped up 4 steps at a time and stuff like that? Is that what you mean when they cut?
Yeah, that was similar. There was a similar type formulation. It gave them credit for their TE time in the pay chart. It wasn't a 1-for-1, so they lost a little bit. I think if you had 6 years, you got 4 steps. So it was whatever. It was some formulation there. But yeah, something like that. But basically, I think everyone should get credit for their time if we're negotiating a contract that's fair. And that's what I would be proposing, and let the post office give me their proposal. You know what I mean? Like we'll kind of go from there. But that's what we should stand on. Every letter carrier should get credit for their time, all of their time in the pay chart, including their non-career time. All of my letter carrier time should count in the pay chart. That should be what we stand for.
All right, perfect. Moving on. Michael Romero, please have your camera on, name and branch number.
Thanks for having me on. Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
40,000 steps. Hit it, brother.
Yes. All right. Thank you for giving me some more time. I definitely wanted to address that the table 2 thing, which just got addressed. I am also one of those carriers that got totally screwed over by this whole contract, and had the contract moved quicker, I would have been paid a comparable wage. Because like every time I look at table 1, I want to vomit, thinking about like all this money that I'm missing out on. Especially being an older man, like I'm in my 40s. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna have that many years to retire. So all those years that I should have been getting paid like table 1, which in all fairness, that should have been like comparable pay. Like if you add like say you take away everything you're talking about, oh well, comparable pay is to UPS. Comparable pay, we ain't even getting that because they took it away. Like, what the fuck are we doing? I don't know what to say, bro.
No, the table 2 pay scale is not comparable to the UPS driver pay scale. It's not. And the fact that we just let that go without even taking our case to arbitration last time is maddening, is infuriating. It should anger every member of the union, and we got to do something about that. One, we got to figure out how we can get a better alternative this time, and then 2, we got to get a better president up in there.
we seem to have like catering to a lot of people that are in retirement. That's what they do. They that whole fight like hell bullshit fucking thing was all about retirees, catering and pandering to retirees, because those are the people that go out and vote. Most people my age We're too busy fucking getting drained from walking 12, 15, 20 fucking miles, working Monday through Sunday, going through our ass through the ringer until we just like drop dead or quit or just can't take it anymore. You know, the level of stress that management, the micromanagement. I worked in downtown New Haven, right? And I went from starting from one manager to now having 4 managers and one over the 4. Make that make sense, bro.
Yeah.
Make that fucking make sense. I don't.
What branch are you in? Are you at 86?
19.
19, right,
Yeah.
right, 19.
Yeah. They got fucking 4 managers with 1 over the 4. Make
Yeah,
that
no,
make
it's
sense,
it's,
man.
it's crazy, man.
Hey, but yeah, but then they want to tell us like, well, you know, hurry up and you should be doing this and you should be doing that. Like, I don't know. Sorry, I'll let it go with that.
All right, brother. Appreciate you, man. Get some rest. You had to have 40,000 steps coming up.
That being said, how would you take on the ratio of 1 to 7, you know, supervisors to carriers ratio?
Yeah, I think we got to get some visibility on it. Like I was talking earlier, it's a little bit of a fine thing there because you want to get a better management structure and get the supervisor off of our asses all the time and save money, right? That can be dedicated to things like paying the letter carriers. So you want to accomplish all that, but what you don't want to do is give ammunition to the people that want to privatize the postal service by highlighting how poorly it's run. So you kind of do both at the same time, but you know, I think you start with the board of governors. You know, are you aware of how much waste there is built into this thing? How poorly it's being managed? Can we work together to do some things to you know make it better, what it should be, kind of thing? Reduce some of these positions. You know, and then I think when you negotiate a contract, and the first time the postal service says, "Yeah, you guys are right. You deserve all that, but we don't have the money." You say, "Okay, are you willing to take the supervisor out and use that money to pay the letter carriers?" And like I say, that's why you got to have public, transparent negotiations. Because I'm going to tell them, here's what I'm going to say, and in your answer is something I'm gonna publish to every letter carrier. They're going to know what our position is. But our president does have no transparency in contract negotiations, and he goes on the supervisor's podcast to to collaborate with them instead of collaborating with the letter carriers to make sure that we have a good contract that pays us well and gets the supervisor off of our asses.
All right. I also want to mention too, if you're on Facebook, make sure you jump into the Zoom chat. The link is there. Be ready and be ready on Stack. Next up on Stack is Ken Grigsby. Please have your camera on, name and branch number.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Thanks. Grigsby, 1259 Corpus Christi. Okay, since people are getting their duties taken away and there's retaliation, would you support some kind of amendment or proposal that brings some sort of, I want to say, due process to at-will employees within the supposed Democratic Union?
No, I think that the way the union is structured, we all work for the benefit of the members, and you elect officers to make those decisions. I think the executive council should be empowered to make those decisions, and then those decisions should stand on behalf of the members of the union. Um, I think that we're all letter carriers, and I think that if the people that are elected to serve the membership decide that a certain person should no longer work in their union role, then that person just goes back to their letter carrier job. They don't lose their job. We're not punishing them. We're not, I don't think it's a situation like a normal job where you need to have protections against any type of action, because those actions are just bringing that person back to the same position they were in before they accepted the union role. And
Doesn't
so,
that contribute to cronyism, and other
no,
things?
I think we need to think about giving more power to the members of the union. Like, for example, maybe some of these positions need to be elected directly by the members.
Well, that's what I
Maybe
was asking.
Yeah, so that those type of things, those type of things I'm in favor of. What I'm just not in favor of is having like a union within the union kind of thing. I just don't agree with that. But as far as making sure that our decisions are in line with the will of the members, I think absolutely that should happen.
I have another question. It kind of devolves into this similar situation where you have a guy like Mike Rivera, and essentially he's being, well, I guess, retaliated because of his using his union rights. How do you feel about that type of retaliation? Because I myself am going through a similar situation where I was just using my voice to speak at the state convention where I was proposing those uh, amendments, and the branch felt that it was their authority only to allow me to speak. So I'm being punished on that side of it.
Yeah, there's everything is decided within the branch initially, and I think that's probably right. But we might want to look at, for example, would you be in favor of a change to the Constitution that, for example, if a branch wanted to expel someone from membership and they voted on it within the branch and they followed the process, would you be in favor of an amendment that said you couldn't implement that expulsion until the person had exhausted their appeal rights? Because they can it's possible you could lose your membership, and then of course you can appeal it, but in the meantime, you're not a member. So maybe there's some change in there that puts a check or balance on the ability of the branch, because sometimes the branches are making decisions outside of the constitutional parameters, and then you need someone to step in and say that's not the right decision, but the action was taken already. So maybe you set it up, if someone wants to propose this, you set it up where there's no action taken until that person's appeal rights are exhausted. I don't know. That's just one thought.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken.
All right. I think that's all of our stack for right now, unless we have any hands raised. Do we have anyone?
I'll jump in.
All right.
We got Mike
John
Coy.
Murphy.
Mike Coy. Let's unmute Mike Coy. Introduce yourself and let's do it.
You hear me?
Yep.
Cool. My question is regarding management. It seems like obviously we're too top heavy, but it's like everything is backwards. I have management who don't care about the quality of the service. They'll like say it without saying it. I'll take a regular scheduled NS day and they'll throw a brand new PTF on who will completely screw up everything. I'm telling you, like, I'll find like two different addresses in the same parcel locker. Like, I don't even know how this happens, but it's like, and I'll bring it to their attention. They'll just give me the run. Oh, yeah. Somebody will talk to him. And then at the same time, we have inspections coming up, and like our branch manager, president, what's his name? Paul Belanger. They already flat out told us they're cutting routes. That is their game plan. That's what they want to do. And it's like, they already tried doing that. It's in arbitration already. It's like, how do we fix this backwards way of doing things? It doesn't make any sense. And it's like the push is to get a better quality service for the postal service. I watched the thing with Steiner, pleading to Congress, and it's like Congress said it themselves. Like the quality is poor. Nobody wants to use it because there's no quality service. And somebody else already said that earlier too.
I think the managers, the supervisors, the postmaster, they have to be judged on their job condition of employment to be in that role has to be that they have to follow the terms of the contracts that the postal service has negotiated with the unions, including us, and they have to be able to show that their focus is on service, meaning that not on all that other shit, the numbers, the this, the that service is your job. You're literally, they call them the customer service supervisor. It's the most frustrating thing. They call them a customer service supervisor and they don't give a shit about the service. So I think that's the thing. But I think contractually, look, we got to fix the grievance process. We got to have it in a way, just like you have the JSOV where you can get rid of a supervisor that is harassing and stuff like that. A supervisor who won't follow the terms of the contract, there's got to be a way to get them out of there and make it a condition of employment. I think that's important in any contract going forward that we need to have. And then look, there's got to be a frank discussion with the Postmaster General and with the Board of Governors about why they have all these supervisors, what the hell their role is, and show that the culture in the post office is really, really bad. And that's just one example of it. Damn, ran out of time. What branch are you in, man? What branch? Oh, we are 44? 44?
Yeah, 44.
Got you. Okay.
I work with Chris Fulber there. He already asked the question earlier.
All right, awesome. You guys are well represented. Appreciate hearing from you guys.
No, thank you, man. You got my vote.
Yeah, hey, set up something so I can come out there and talk to you guys, either at a branch meeting or an event somewhere, or something like that. I'll come out, no problem.
Yeah, I'd love it. Me and Chris were talking about that a little while ago, actually.
Okay. We'll get you guys on the calendar.
Hey,
Just let me know.
speaking of branch 44, Mike, do you plan on having a director of education?
That's a great question. Probably. I don't know. I think we need people in like all type of roles. So yeah, I don't know if the title director of education is the right title, but yeah, I think there's someone that should oversee the training program for the NALC. I think that's definitely something that we want to have. I mean, someone else asking a question about all these assistants to the presidents, right? Like, I don't know. I just think we have money and we should be having people doing all the jobs that we need people to do. You know what I mean? Not to get crazy with it, but yeah, I think director of education, it served a purpose when we had one, and why don't we have one now? I think we should.
All right, cool. We're 3 hours into this. I woke up this morning to the Caref campaign texting me to do a raffle and for them to get like a goodie bag of Caref for Prez stuff, whoever signed up for this. So I just went under the Zoom registration and I just clicked some random name under one of the random pages for the registration, and Christopher Gutierrez out of branch 2608. That's the one I'm picking. I don't even know if 2608 is a branch because I looked it up on Google. It didn't come up, but so if you're Christopher, I'll email you or you can reach out to us. You've won some Caref for Prez gear. Yeah, and then I'll jump in. We're at the end of the stack, unless there's other people in here that want to ask. But so you're running for NALC presidency, and there's a lot of people saying why, right? And one, we see the failure of the leadership, but I think also we see a failure of the NALC Constitution. Do you see anything wrong with the NALC Constitution? And if you do see anything wrong with the NALC Constitution, why have you not brought forward any constitutional amendment leading up to the 2026 NALC convention?
Yeah, I talked about that. We just haven't got there yet. We're going to have, you'll see another ad in the Postal Record in April. And we're going to have like a pre-convention meeting at the, I forget the date, but anyway, you guys will all be informed of it. I think it's a Sunday, like third Sunday or fourth Sunday in April. But anyway, we're going to get together and we want everyone to submit the resolutions that they have. We've already gathered. We have a tab on the website that has a listing of a lot of the convention resolutions and amendments that have already been submitted, that have already been voted on by the branches. And so, we're going to get everyone together. We're going to see what ideas people have. And if there's something that I feel personally that needs to be addressed that's not being addressed by anyone, then I'll talk to my branch about submitting that resolution, So, I mean, look, I'm just one person at the convention. So I'll play my part, but everyone's got to play their part in that, I think.
All right. So the follow-up question, I guess, is, do you find anything inside the NALC Constitution right now outdated that needs to be updated?
I think there's probably 100 things that are outdated and need to be updated. But you know,
All right, so you're not
like you know, like I've said, one of the main things I've talked about is the ranked choice voting system. It would be much better if we had the ranked choice voting system. It requires a change in the Constitution. There's a lot of things that require a change in the Constitution.
That was Chris just falling over in his chair after you answered that question.
I have no. I don't know. I don't even know how to end this. Chris.
All right, so since we're all
Greg,
out of
Capone.
questions, thank you for
Good.
coming,
Yeah,
and
there
thank
you
you,
go.
Next
How
Gen
about thanks
Carriers,
to
for
Town?
letting me host this
Yes.
event. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. It's been fun meeting some of our members that don't actually come to a lot of our gigs. You know, it's good to hear fresh voices and see fresh faces. Please get out, get involved, and make your voice heard in 2026. And that being said, good night.
Thank you,
Wait,
brother.
I guess I'll end this. I want to highlight Josh Towney here. He was just a regular rank and file member that didn't really participate in anything beforehand. But his wife told him to join our Zoom on the first time we had Brian Renfro on. And he jumped on, he got involved. He was shy, he was nervous. And now here he is. He's hosting his own podcast, The Solidarity Report. He's in talks with Sarah Nelson to have her on to interview the president of the American Flight Association Union. So anyone that's listening to this and you see these types of activities happening on the Next Generation Carriers podcast platforms, jump into these Zooms, because we open it up to everyone, because we cannot keep this little network of ourselves. We all have networks across the country, but we need to expand. We need to be always welcoming members into our circles. And that's what the whole premise of this Ask Mike Anything event was. We haven't reached out to James Henry about this because we didn't even know if this was going to be a real thing. It could have been a total flop. I thought there was going to be 10 people in this, and we just wasted time, resources, and money.
We did not waste anything, though. It's so wild to see all these new faces here.
Yeah. So we'll discuss it amongst ourselves on the Next Gen crew. If we even want to do another one, we probably will. And we'll reach out to James Henry as well to ask him to do the same thing. Because as 2026 is nearing, we need an entire change in the union philosophy. Currently we have a business unionism approach, and to me, we need a rank and file approach, the bottom up. So hopefully members are on board, and hopefully James Henry's on board with doing something like this. Josh Towney gave the idea that we should put in the postal record 1 month before it actually happens, because as we saw just now, it's March 29th, and a lot of people still have not received their postal record this late in the month. So there's a lot of things, to digest. So thank you to everyone. Solidarity, and have a good day.